Hello, I'm Ernest Amir.
So I reached out to another friend of mine. I said, look, I need to go on vacation somewhere. Where should I go? He said, go to Africa. And not only am I going to go, I'm going to explore a new country. So I went to Tanzania, South Africa, Namibia, Mali, Senegal, Morocco, Liberia, Namibia, Kenya, the Voodoo Festival in Ouida, Gambia, Togo, Cote d'Ivoire. Sierra Leone, Ghana, Nigeria. It's been a beautiful experience, just learning more about our culture, our indigenous culture. So Uhuru means freedom in Swahili. I'm in search of my roots. In finding that, I would experience my Uhuru, which is freedom.
Till next time, Ernest Amir. I'm out.
Peace, family. I hope all is well. I hope, let me get the camera right. I hope you're, what's today? Thursday? Yeah, today is Thursday. I hope your Thursday is going well, guys. Do me a favor, hit that like button again. Please hit the like button. Also share. Again, also share and subscribe. Also, please buy the documentary. Make sure you go to Donfo. I'm sorry, not Donfo. No, we're not there yet. We're about to discuss Donfo and announce the tour. So the itinerary for Donfo, the tours, the countries the destinations, that we're going to be attending next year as far as the tours. I've officially announced it. I'll do a video later on today. But please, I bet if all the Pan-African channels stop talking about FBA, they will still come to these spaces. Well, it's all good. Listen, I want everybody. My space is open for everyone. I invite everyone. Even if you call yourself a Hebrew Israelite, you're Olmec, a black Olmec, FBA, you are more than welcome to come to my space, and you are more than welcome to come engage. This space is open for everyone. Let's have a conversation. I'm all about open conversation. I'm all about discussing things within reason and with respect. So listen, FBA, ADOS, Rastas. I think the Rastas are mad at me now. You guys are more than welcome to come and join the conversation. Yeah, I give everybody a voice. Listen, I give everybody a voice. Sometimes too much of a voice, but listen, you're more than welcome. And listen, I want the women. I want the sisters to really come on more and engage. Angela Wright, listen, I'm gonna put the link in the chat room. Again, I'm gonna put the link in the chat room, and you're more than welcome to call in and add to the conversation. Again, this platform is for everyone. I want everybody to call in. I want everybody to contribute, because this platform would not exist if it wasn't for everyone's contribution. So listen, we don't run nobody off over here. We might join you. Yeah, don't forget the black women too. I said black women. I said I want sisters. I want the sisters to call in too. I want everybody to call in. Like I said, this space is open This platform is open for everyone. Okay. You're more than welcome to call in because, again, this platform would not exist if it wasn't for you. So if you feel like you're being slighted, if you don't agree with me, you are more than welcome to call in and share why you disagree with me. I won't, if you guys notice, I don't ban people. I rarely block people. Just you really have to take it there for me to block you. But like I said, it's open. You're more than welcome to call in. You're more than welcome to have a voice. No problem. I'm not one of these people where you disagree with, I'll block you. Like on Facebook, had a disagreement with somebody, we had a different train of thought, they blocked me. I don't do all that. So, again, you guys are don't run anybody off. You're more than welcome to call in. And we'll get on the topic here shortly. But first of all, listen, guys, if you have not bought the documentary, please go to searchforahuru.com. Please visit searchforahuru.com and buy the documentary. Again, please buy the documentary. Again, please. Yeah, where is Kala? I got to do a show with Kala soon. Me and Kala usually rock on Wednesday evenings. Again, we usually rock on Wednesday evenings, and I just, I stream early now. I like to stream around this time. So, me and Kala, we haven't been on lately. But guys, if you have not bought the documentary, make sure you go to searchforahuru.com. Make sure you go to searchforahuru.com. And listen, so we're going to talk about that. When they say that, Africans aren't practicing Pan-Afrikanism, here's my proof of Pan-Afrikanism right here. Here's my proof. Here's my proof right here. Because you guys say tangibles. You don't want feel good. You want tangibles. You don't want symbolism. You want tangibles. Well, here you go. Here goes a tangible. Pan-Afrikanism. And the thing is, guys, what you don't understand, what my FBA family does not understand, more countries want to adopt this, okay? They want to adopt it. They want to adopt, hey, listen, if you could trace your lineage via DNA back to Sierra Leone, you can get your citizenship. More countries want to adopt it. But what you have to understand, you guys, in fact, Marie has hers. She got her Sierra Leone passport too. I'm taking another group in November to Sierra Leone to get their passports. That's a Pan-Africanism, Pan-African tangible, because you guys said we want tangibles. We want tangibles. We want tangibles. Well, here's a tangible. There you go. And the point of the conversation that we're going to have today, the amount of energy that FBA, Black people, and by definition, if FBA is a lineage, technically I'm FBA. So by definition, I'm FBA. See, y'all never be happy. See, you guys will never be happy. Some of you guys will never be happy. I like you, Prince Amir, but one citizenship to one African country is not tangibles. How's that not a tangible? I got it right here in my hand. Marie, I wish you'll come on and cam up with your Sierra Leone passport. How is this not a tangible? See, we can never make you guys happy. We can never make you guys happy. So this is not a tangible. This is not a tangible. Okay, all right. But and I have some more announcements, but the topic of conversation today, the amount of energy that we put in to wanting to sit at white folks in white folks restaurants to eat turkey sandwiches with white folks. If y'all will put that same energy into Pan-Africanism, maybe more countries will come on board. The same energy that black folks put into wanting to eat turkey and chicken sandwiches and pumpkin pie and apple pie at white folks' diners, if we were to put that same, I'm gonna play the videos. If we were to put that same energy into Pan-Africanism, because the argument is, well, the Pan-Africanism is one-sided. Africans don't practice it. It's Black Americans who are the ones that have initiated Pan-Africanism and all this other stuff. And listen, I will say this. I will admit that the concept or the idea of Pan-Africanism comes from the West. I admit that. I would say the engagement, a lot of it we have been doing a lot of the engagement. If you look at history, I admit that. But to sit here and complain on how Africa does not reach out to African Americans and that Africa needs to do a better job when it comes to reaching out and engaging African Americans. And why didn't they save their ships to save us? I'm sorry, why didn't they send their ships? Why didn't Africa send ships to save us? Meanwhile, Black folks were going out of our way here in America. We had our own restaurants. We had our own hotels. Auntie up the street made the bomb apple pie, made the bomb turkey sandwiches. But damn, that wasn't enough. We wanted to go out of our way, pull up at Woolworths, get our ass whooped in the Woolworths by white folks that were like, listen, Negro, we don't want your money. I mean, think about it. Negro, we don't want your money. No colors allowed on the damn entrance. On the entrance, right there posted, no colors allowed. Negroes, we don't want your money. Your money's no good here. We went out of our way to go to the other side of town to bum rush Woolworths so we can eat chicken sandwiches at Karen's restaurant or diner counter and get our ass beat while doing it. We went out of our way to get rid of our Negro leagues so we could play in the white leagues. We gave that up. We went out of our way to get our ass kicked. Literally, it's on camera. I'm not making this up. To get our ass kicked to integrate into white society. Out of our way. Put our lives on the line. But you guys want to complain about Africa not engaging with us. That's the point I don't get. I mean, if we could go this hard to integrate with white people, why can't we go this hard to reconnect back with Africa? That's all I'm saying. That's my question. That's my question. And I would like someone to call in and explain that. That's all I'm saying. We went so hard so we could eat chicken sandwiches at white-owned diners when we had our own diners in our own Black communities. Right? We went hard. So why can't we put that same energy to reconnect back to Africa? That's my question. So Angelina, let's hear. Africa owes African Americans oh golly. Okay, here we go. Africa owns African Americans reparations. Okay. We need them to also support us harder in FBA's reparations claim as well in the US. So Angelina, How about you get FBA together, right? Get FBA together. Okay, stop banging on wax online. See, right now, FBA's banging on wax. There used to be an album, Bloods and Crips banging on wax. Where listen, we're not gonna bang on the streets. We're gonna do it on wax, on cassette, on cassette and CD. We're gonna keep it off the streets. We're gonna talk about each other on a record. Right now, FBA is banging on wax. Now, listen, I might disagree with ADOS, the other side, which is Yvette Carnell and Tone Talks, but they were actually like getting involved. They weren't banging on wax. They had a serious plan. I don't know what happened with them. They kind of lost steam. I don't know what's going on. But all I'm saying, if you feel that way, if you really truly feel that way, how about ADOS FBA get together, put together a lobby? I mean, the thing is, Claude Anderson has given you the blueprint of what to do. Again, Claude Anderson has given you the blueprint on what to do. How about just follow that blueprint? One of the pillars Claude Anderson he speaks of and he refers to is the politics. You guys got to get your money up and get behind his politicians. Am I right or wrong? So the one politician you had, the one opportunity you had in South Carolina, I forgot what's the guy's name that ran for Senate in South Carolina? That was like FBA. What's his name? Help me out. Guys, what was the guy's name that ran for Senate in South Carolina? Somebody help me out. Marcel Dixon. This is why no one takes you guys serious. Marcel Dixon only raised $50,000. What you gonna do with $50,000 when it comes to politics? So you can't get behind a politician and give this politician enough money to push your agenda. But damn it, you want reparations from Africa and America. It's a joke. It's a joke. At least with Martin Luther King Jr., who else? John Lewis, the other freedom riders, they weren't behind a keyboard all day. They was out in the streets marching, protesting, getting attacked by German shepherds, by the police. Even though I don't agree with bum rushing Woolworths when we had our own department stores, they was showing up. They were bum rushing Woolworths, demanding, listen, we want to be able to eat here. We are demanding that even though you don't want our money, and for some odd reason, we don't want to spend our money in our own Black community, you better take our money. You better take, listen, you better take this money and you better let me eat your chicken sandwich and your apple pie. Even though I don't want to buy the chicken sandwich and apple pie in the Black community, that I want to buy it right here in Woolworths and get spit on, get foot, hands, and elbows put on me. I don't care. I will risk death. I will risk my life just to eat a chicken sandwich and an apple pie with a glass of cold iced tea. And you better take my money right now. Literally, FBA, we were risking our life just to eat some chicken sandwich. And they were like, we don't want your money, Negro. They were saying the other word. We don't want your money. We don't want it. Big ass sign in front of the store when you enter. No coloreds. No Negroes. No coloreds. We still bum rush. We still bum rush the Woolworths and demanded that they take our money when they didn't want it. So what I'm saying, the amount, those who are claiming that Africa's not reconnecting and Africa's not engaging us, how about that same energy that you put into that? Put into reconnecting and building with Africa. That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking, guys. That's the question I'm asking. Guys, do me a favor, hit the like button. Again, hit the like button. I mean, by definition, I'm FBA, by definition. But my plan, again, my plan, okay, or my history or my lineage, it didn't begin in America. My legacy didn't begin, my inheritance didn't begin in America, and it's not going to end in America. I have plans outside of America. But I do have the FBA experience due to lineage. But my lineage didn't start in America. It didn't begin in America. And it's not going to end in America. I'm not limited to the borders of America. I see that we are let's see here. Why are you so? There is no FBA politics. It doesn't exist, Lynn. Lynn, call in. I want the women to call in. And see, that's why I respect Mashawn. Even though we give Mashawn a hard time sometimes, that's why I respect Mashawn. I like the sisters to call in. There's no such thing as FBA politics. It's a side. It's right now as we stand. Now, Yvette Carnell and Tone Talks, they were engaging in politics. Again, Yvette Carnell and Tone Talks, they were more engaging in politics. What's going on now? It's just straight comedy and banging on wax. That's it. That's all. That's it. That's all. Hold on one second, guys. Make sure, once again, guys, make sure you buy. Yeah, there's no politics. Why are you always talking about FBA politics? There's no politics. You guys only raised $50,000 from Marcel Dixon. Guys, please go to searchforahuru.com. Go to searchforahuru.com. And buy the documentary. Yeah, I saw the cartoon. I saw the cartoon of Brandon. But again, like I said, it's comedy. It's banging on wax and comedy. That's all it is. Go to searchforahuru.com. Go to searchforahuru.com and buy the documentary. Also, guys, we have announced. Oh, hold on. Don't do that. Guys, we have announced our schedule of destinations for next year's tours where we're going to travel to. So please go to Danfo, DANFO.Africa, Danfo, DANFO. Go to Danfo, DANFO.Africa. Go to Danfo, DANFO.Africa. And guys, the places, the destinations for next year for the group tours. Now, we do tours year round, but for the group tours, Zanzibar, Senegal, Benin, Nigeria, and Sierra Leone. We're rolling to in fact, I'll do a separate show on each destination, but we're rolling to Senegal next year for the Jazz Festival. We're rolling to the Jazz Festival next year in Senegal. So if you're interested in joining us if you're interested in joining us in Senegal for the Jazz Festival, please go to Danfo.Africa. Please go to Danfo.Africa. Send me a message to learn more. And also Zanzibar. We're rolling to Zanzibar next year. Safari Blue Tour, where we're just going to enjoy the beautiful beaches and blue waters of the Indian Ocean in Zanzibar. And, do some other excursions, but we are rolling to Zanzibar next year as well. So, if you're interested in joining us in Zanzibar, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, please go to Danfo, DANFO.Africa. Again, please go to Danfo, DANFO.Africa. Again, please go to Danfo, DANFO.Africa. Again, go to Danfo.Africa and learn more. We would love to have you guys. Again, we would love to have you guys on the tour. So, but again, we'll talk some more about it. It's funny because the person that you guys are bringing up in the chat room, I've never mentioned his name. So that's hilarious. So yeah, but listen, we're gonna open up the lines. If you'd like to call in, please click on the link and call in. If you'd like to call in, please click on the link and call in. And again, I'm not hating. It's just, again, whenever I hear the Africa's not reaching out to us Black Americans, I say, okay. So won't we put in the same effort in reaching out to Africa like we did wanting to eat Karen's chicken salad sandwich at an all-white diner? That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking. I'm just asking a question. So again, click on the link and call in. And I see a lot of you guys in the chat room all the time. You're more than welcome to call in. And shout out to Michonne. Michonne, she'll call in. We might not agree on everything, but she'll call in and give her points. And she's more than welcome to. Guys, hit the like button. Again, please hit the like. Kevin, you're more than welcome to call in. Again, guys, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Again, please hit the like button. Okay, I'm gonna let Black Hannah on first. Let me let Black Hannah on first. Hold on. That seems like a new guest. Black Hannah, go ahead.
Hey, Donis, can you hear me, brother? Can you hear me?
Hold on. I hear you loud and clear. Go ahead.
Thank you for having me. So the question is why Blacks won't put as much energy into Pan-Africanism as they do integration. These are just my opinions, obviously, but for one, Black Americans are too comfortable, in my opinion, with the systems that they lean on, the welfare system, disability, blah, blah, blah. And nobody really wants to move, or they've attained a certain status and no one wants to move. In my opinion, Black History Month failed us. We need to totally rethink that whole thing about how we do educate our young people about our history as melanated people, because the connect is not happening. It needs to include something like taking our babies to the land so they can see themselves in another light besides this one, because the whiteness here is overshadowing all that other bullshit, in my opinion, and they're not making a connection in most cases. Also, first and foremost, the passport is a tangible. I don't care who don't think it isn't. It is absolutely a tangible. Number 2 point I wanted to make is, I think it was one of the great teachers I heard not too long ago teaching about how when immigrants come to the United States for education and open businesses, blah, 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 and they seem to be passing us up who build foundations for them to build upon, they have countries behind them. They have leaderships behind them. And this kind of ties into the program you did yesterday about the music. As Black Americans, we're kind of selling out because we're dependent upon the white corporations and all these the the powers that be for our money, so we have to bend and be distorted in this way. But the point that I'm making is that, you know, we cannot disregard the Africans' battles that they have had in the land over there on the continent to hold the land. I don't think nothing brought this more to the forefront than the death of the Queen, because I saw posts everywhere from South Africa, Melina speaking, and everywhere, Ethiopia, Kenya, all the atrocities and the things that Africans have endured just to hold the land and hold themselves together as a people. We need to put some respect on their struggles to hold the land that we can go over there and enjoy. The same way we want respect for our struggles here in America as Black Americans. And I don't feel like that emphasis is being made. Africans have been fighting their ass off over there to hold their land and cover their peoples. And so we don't want to discount that. I'm trying to think, it was like one last point I wanted to make, but those were probably the two major ones. We have so many gifts and so many talents to offer our land. That is our land, and I haven't seen one country where we have not been welcomed. We need to take our gifts and talents there with our own people and build. And that is my opinion. And thanks so much for having me, brother. I'm gonna just sit back and let someone else speak.
No, I appreciate you for joining. Gas them up. Go ahead.
Hey, Dennis, you can hear me?
Yes, I can. Loud and clear. You got the loudest mic.
Okay. You know what's funny? It's the cheapest mic available. It's a Target headphone piece. But I'm gonna say something controversial. I believe that for the most part, in terms of FBA, ADOS, you know, because I'm a tether, I'm not in that. You know, I don't qualify, but I believe that the people or the person who I've seen in terms of integrating into modern day Africa do it the best was Grandmaster Amirdynast, may he rest in peace, and yourself. The question that you're asking with FBA, I think for me, you know, someone who observes life in America, who lives in America and in Nigeria, go back and forth. I think that the problem, the fundamental problem, you sum it up real quick, the fundamental problem is going to be a problem of culture. And I think that FBA, funny enough, and they admit this, they don't want to go to Africa because that would mean fundamentally, to a large degree, you can't be FBA anymore. And what do I mean by that? I mean that I saw a documentary years ago where some African Americans moved to Ghana, and they were like, you know, they go to the market and the lady says, "Oh, a Bruni," and she's like, "No, don't give me a Bruni prices," and stuff like that, right? And I'm like, yeah. And in that same documentary, there was another lady who she's, you know, learning Twi, she's learning Fanti, I believe. She had her daughter in the school. She was taking the local buses, and her experience was totally different because she was immersing herself not only in the historical narrative of African culture, she was also engaging in the day-to-day, you know, living of what it's like to be an African. When you go into the market, you can't go into the market and say, "Yeah, man, I want a burger." No, I need mama. I need goat meat. You gotta get your accent right. You gotta pick a language, and like the sister said, why would you do that? You know, why would you leave, to a large degree, the comforts of living in Western modernity? Why would you leave a system that has Social Security for you, that even though it treats you as bad as it wants, right, still gives you certain things that you're not going to get coming down to Africa, because the Africans, to a certain degree, don't have the time to, you know, walk you through it. You kind of have to come to Africa and be prepared to be an African again. You got to learn whatever country, pick an ethnic group of people that like you, learn their language, and get in. There's going to be good people, there's going to be bad people, there's going to be phony people, there's going to be scammers, there's going to be solid people. And immerse yourself in being an African. And it's funny because immigrants, when they come to America, they have to do that. You see many Africans, especially the men, "Yeah, what's up, brother? My nigga, yeah." and they're trying their hardest to immerse themselves in African American culture. They're trying, right? Not perfect, but they do try. And by when their children are born, you can't tell the difference sometimes unless it's the last name. So I'm just saying that I think FBA will not want to go that, because it would mean they can't be FBA anymore. It would mean that within one generation, a person with the last name Jackson moves into Nigeria. You're gonna marry some Yoruba family, and them kids are gonna have Yoruba last names. They're gonna speak Yoruba. They're not gonna know anything about being FBA. It's gonna be a distant memory.
Okay,
So I end with that.
This is Black Hannah again. I'm sorry, I have to disagree with you about. I don't know if that is like. I don't think I understand your definition of FBA, because I consider myself FBA and Pan African. I heard Dinah say early in the show he identified. He said technically he's FBA, and FBA to me.
I mean, by definition, I would be considered FBA. Yes, correct.
Well, by definition, I am too, and I think is.
But what exactly do you disagree with?
Well, I think you said FBA could not be both, and I'm just saying that I feel like I am.
No, I said, no. I don't think you. Let me repeat it again, because I think you probably didn't absorb it well. What I'm saying is this: is that no, it's not a diss, sister. I would never diss you. I don't know you to disrespect you. I don't do that.
No,
I would never.
I didn't say anything, sir. I respect you. I like you.
Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am. But no, what I'm saying is that like, again, using Grandmaster Amin Ra as an example, as a case study, as an anecdotal case study. He and you guys, I believe his channel's still up. Watch his videos. He said it one day. He was like, yo, he was sitting down. He looked at his sons. He's like, yo, my sons will not know anything about, my life on the west coast of California. He gave his whole life story. He was supposed to join the police. He was teaching Kempo karate, and then he ended up in Kenya and whatnot. He had a whole situation. He told everything. And he was like, look, my kids are not going to know anything of that. My children speak Swahili. My wives, he married a whole nother woman from a different group and whatnot. And his children he had in Africa. We had a father. No, we have a father. We had our father. He's still with us. His spirit's still strong. But our father came from America. But we're from this lineage in Kenya. And that's what. And so what I guess what I'm saying is that in order for Pan-Africanism to really work, FBA can't be FBA anymore. What do I mean? Again, you can't go to the markets in modern day Africa, with an American accent. They're gonna rip you off.
No,
unless you got somebody walking with you.
Okay.
You could go up there with a. Go ahead, Hannah. Go ahead.
No, I just feel like FBA is so much deeper than going to get a hamburger. Okay, we're actually connected.
No, I didn't say getting a hamburger.
Let her finish. Let her finish, please. Go ahead.
Well, I just feel like we're connecting ourselves to our ancestry of our 18 generations of slavery suffered on this land. Is what FBA means to me. Now, I'm not saying that all FBA. I mean, anybody who understands that's what that's about. Now, I want to go to Africa and learn Swahili, and my kids will absolutely know that I'm a descendant of FBA, foundational Black Americans who have suffered all the 18 generations for me to live. So I don't disagree with that brother who's not letting his child know. But obviously it's his children. He can do what he wants. But FBA cannot be dismissed.
I'm not giving up on my ancestors just because I'm in another place. Like, I don't have to.
Exactly. FBA to me is 18 generations deep from the first Africans who landed on this land. It's not just the ones who are getting benefits and programs in recent times, is what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
No, but we know that, sister. We know that. What I'm saying is that in order to fully assimilate into modern day Africa for this Pan-African ideal or dream to happen, you're going to have to understand that when you get to Africa, if you choose to be in Africa working day to day, it's going to be very difficult for you to still be African American and be within the modern day context of any metropolis in Africa. And that's just having boots on the ground. That's just the reality.
Right. But I don't understand why you say that, bro.
Go ahead, Mufasa. Go ahead, Mufasa.
Well, my point on the topic is different. Without going back and forth, let me address my point on the topic first before we get back to that. My point on the topic. So I disagree strongly with you when you say this thing about integration, Dynast. I don't know why you say this, where you say We just wanted to eat Karen's pizza or whatever the case. Because the reality is, when you talk about the time of integration, you're in a country that we fought for, we're paying taxes into, and we made what it was. We contributed a lot to this nation at the time. So what they're doing is they're taking everyone's money, including our money, and then they're putting it into a nation, and then they're making a nation separate and unequal, and they're cutting us off from access to contribute or to get out of this country what we've contributed into it. So you can't make it as if we wanted to do their things, because we had our own style of food, we had our own places we went, we did our own type of music. Everything we did was flyer than them. We wanted to do our own thing. We didn't want to be like Karen. I never got that from my grandparents, that they was trying to be white.
And Mufasa, you have a point there. So my grandmother, and my mom told me this story. My grandmother had a twin, and her twin passed away because she didn't have proper access to healthcare. But again, I understand not having access to certain infrastructure that we should have access to as far as paying taxes and being American. But what does that got to do with going to Woolworths? Like, I don't see Chinese.
You said we're going to war?
Woolworths. Yeah.
Oh,
what does that
okay,
got to do with going to Woolworths?
We're going to these different places?
Yeah, like, yeah, exactly my point. What does that got to do with the Negro Leagues?
We could have kept the Negro Leagues.
What
We
does
could
that
have
do
kept
with,
that.
Listen, our HBCUs were in, me and you, we played D1 football at PWIs, but our HBCUs were putting out the best athletes on the planet.
Right.
Before we started sending them to PWI. So that's my point. Like,
but you know what that is, bro. They basically colonize it. Like they take all the money and they infuse the money into their programs. And then if your son gets to a certain point, you got to make a real decision. My son can go to Alabama, or do I send him to Jackson State, or another black HBCU that doesn't have Deion Sanders? Where do I send him? Because he has way more money and opportunity at one place than the other. They're basically colonizing all these things. We create hip hop. They infuse they got all the money, all the capital.
Right, but what does that have to? And I'm gonna pass it, Professor Lumumba. Are you professor? You're professor, not doctor yet.
Professor, not doctor.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Professor Lumumba break it down because he's more qualified than anybody on this panel. But again, Mufasa, but what does that have to do with bum rushing Woolworths? These white restaurants, like, that's the part.
I think it was a rights thing, though, Dynast. I'll give you an example. I don't know if you rode the bus to school, right? When we rode the bus, all the black people went to what section of the bus? I don't know if you rode the bus to school, but where I was from, we went to the back of the bus. We still was in the back of the bus. The spot everybody wanted to try to get was that back row of the bus. It wasn't about we wanted to sit in the front with the white people. It was about the right to be able to do it. I shouldn't need a green book. Like, I used to have to drive up, like, we got truckers. You shouldn't need a green book to go to different places. I think it was better set up that way. That doesn't mean that we want to try to go to these places. Like, I don't remember my parents or my grandparents fighting to go to places that white people was at. I don't know about your family, but it was about the right to go to different places, right? You shouldn't be able to refuse me to buy gas just because this is a white gas station. That type of stuff was stupid. These were struggles that people had to go through. What was the point of that? So I understood that. I understood that struggle. But I don't think that means they wanted to be white. That's why I disagree with you. I think that's a mischaracterization of what happened.
But Mufasa, what happened to everything that was black?
Yeah, we lost it. We should have held on to that. I agree with you there.
We had to let go of stuff to survive.
And we didn't let go of everything, but we let go of a lot of things. I agree with that.
All right, go ahead, Professor Lumumba, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is an extremely interesting topic. So I'm glad to be part of the conversation. Appreciate everyone who's on the panel. So I think there's a couple of things. We do know that for many years, for generations, there was a vehement and very violent approach to blacks trying to integrate. And I would just want to say, to start off by prefacing my comment, today is the 59th anniversary, unfortunately, of the bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama, that of course took the lives of 4 black little girls, right? So just want to put that out there. But also, we also know that unfortunately, there's also always been a saying in the black community that there was people who believe that the white man's ice was colder, right? And so part of reality, and the brother mentioned no one in his family, his grandparents, and I can recall my grandfather, unfortunately, or my maternal grandfather, stating that he was happy to see black men with white women because during his day that wasn't allowed. Right. So there was a stream of thought, unfortunately, in the black community in which there was a belief that white was better. We know that for many white people, of course, they pushed back on the idea of having blacks patronize their businesses until they realized that, hey, they want to give us all their money, then shoot, we might as well. Right. And so as a result, unfortunately, we saw the proliferation of black people supporting white institutions and, of course, the dying out of black institutions. Now, this is something that is a historical fact, that even though there was segregation going on, there were still black businesses that were able to get small business loans here and there from white banks. After integration, black businesses were not able to receive black business loans for businesses because the white bank stated no one's going to support your business, right? And I actually got this information from, there's a book entitled The Struggle for Black Equality by Harvard Sitkoff. Harvard Sitkoff is the former department chair of history at the University of New Hampshire. And he talks about these issues. So yes, on one hand, we were fighting against social and political segregation, but at the other end, you know, many black people created first-class citizenship with the ability to buy and shop.
No, okay, but brother, but listen to this. Remember Malcolm X, he broke it down. He said, look, you have all these people up at the top representing black people. They're not even in black relationships. And he called that out. He's like, you got all these people. And it's the same thing that we're dealing with today, where you have these people up at the top representing us. They live like white people. They want to be white people. They take their marching orders from them. They're not in the neighborhoods living like the common black person. And that's why I'm saying you can't tie the common black person in because you had some sellout people who wanted to be white at the top representing us.
Well,
because white people put them there.
I'm not talking about the elites. I'm talking about, unfortunately, in our community, this was a stream of thought. Literally, as someone who has a bachelor's and master's degree in African American studies, I can state factually that unfortunately in our community, there has been a stream of thought in our community that white was better. I'm not saying all black people.
No, that's a fact.
I'm not saying the majority of black people thought that way, but there was a stream of thought in our community, which is still here today, by individuals who aren't even in relationships with white folk, in which they believe that white is unfortunately better. In fact, and I'm gonna shut up because I'm monopolizing conversation, there's significant literature by black academics. We're talking about PhDs that make the argument that if black people in some way, shape, or form, they center whiteness, meaning that if we live near white folk, if we go to school near white folk, if we are in relationships with white folk, that somehow, some way, unfortunately, they believe that would make our lives tangibly better. Of course, I disagree with that frame of reference, but there are literally individuals in our community going back, I would argue, since the Holocaust of enslavement, right, known as chattel slavery, that believe these type of things.
I just think I would just add this before I would pass it on. I don't want to monopolize, like you said, but it's a funny dynamic because we have to look at the reality behind what they're saying, and then we have to look at the people who are buying into the mythology of white supremacy. There is a reality behind that, because when they have all the capital and the resources, it's like Africa. It's like this whole Africa versus America thing. You have many people in Africa, they want to come over here because there's much more wealth in this economy. That's a reality. Now, there's some of them that want to do it just because they feel white people are better, but there's many people who understand that white supremacy is a myth, but there is literally more wealth in these places. If I go to Harvard, the people I'm meeting aren't the same as if I go to Jackson State. That is a pure reality, regardless of what someone believes. So we have to keep that in mind. So I think just because there are some people who believe that is very true, way more people than they should, it also has to be noted that white people had all that wealth. They manufactured it to where all of it flew to them, and they took it away from us. So us trying to get closer to that wealth will sometimes mix in and look as if we want to get closer to them. But as far as I've known, we've always looked at ourselves. We never looked at white people as cool or something to be. That was just a few of us. Most of us wanted to do black things and do them our way.
Real quick, I just want to offer a rebuttal very quickly. So I am a voracious reader of Dr. Amos Wilson. One of the things he talks about in his book, Blueprint for Black Power, I would implore everyone to get the book. I argue that it's the Bible for Black people. And if you're serious about Black liberation, Black emancipation, and Black power, you should read his treatise. But one of the things he argues in the book, and I would actually agree as someone who studied African-American intellectual thought, is that Black people tend to only be nationalistic in their outlook when something happens, egregious happens, we're killed by a policeman, there's a change in law, something like that, then the black people on a macro level become nationalistic, right? But the reality is for most black people, and I would dare say 80% of the African community, we tend to find ourselves being apolitical. And oftentimes even integrationalists, right? So if things are going well, then all of a sudden it's red, white, and blue, I love America, right? But then when something bad happens, then it's all of a sudden it's red, black, and green, and Marcus Garvey and W.B. Du Bois told us X, Y, Z, right? So that the argument that I'm making is that if you look at the scholarship, it shows that unfortunately, and we can even talk about contemporarily, if you look at the Harvard implicit bias test, to this day, the majority of black people, particularly 75%, based on the test, have a pro-white, anti-black disposition. We could look at Doctors Kenneth and Mamie Clark's doll test, infamous doll test that was used in the 1950s. That was part of the key piece of evidence that was used in Brown v. Board of Education. We also know that doll test was done again in 2005 in Harlem, New York City. You know, fast way to Harlem is the A train. Shout out to Uptown, right? But what we find is when that doll test was done again in 2005, we saw the same results in which the majority of black girls picked the white doll over the black doll as what? Beautiful, educated, so on and so forth. So the idea and argument that this isn't the case, I think is a bit disingenuous.
All right, let's pass it to Mashawn. Go ahead, Mashawn. Unmute yourself.
Good day, everyone. Thank you, Dynas, for the invite. This is a good topic. Now, the question is why we're not throwing down to be, what is it, inclusive or to have a relationship with Africa?
No,
or
well, right. As far as building a bridge with Africa, why doesn't FBA, ADOS put in the same effort as we did with integration?
I understand it. Now, if you're talking about back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s versus 2022, there's different generations, number one. What was happening back then isn't what's happening now. Back then, remember, Africa was the one who sold us out. So why would we try to break our necks to even correlate with Africa if they didn't want us there? So that's my question to you. I'm talking about going back.
That's a bit disingenuous, right? I think you're conflating some facts there when you say Africa sold us out, Africa didn't want us there. I think you are conflating some issues and bringing a multitude of variables and dumping it all in one pot.
Okay, so let me finish, because that's what makes sense to me. We wasn't in the presence of Africa. We didn't know nothing about Africa at that time. All we know is that we are on this land, which we have been here for generations, even before slavery. So why would we put our energy in that? We need to survive for right now. I'm talking about back in my great-grandmother and my grandmother's day of what they experienced. They were trying to survive. And I actually think that they did very well, considering we were being lynched and murdered and our children being fed to alligators. Come on. What more can you get? As of now, I think it is uncertainty. Okay. So to me, with the motherland on Africa, all 54 states, some are worse off in other conditions than others. There's uncertainty there. You don't know. Okay, we do have the diaspora who goes from continent to country, right? But that's not enough information or foundation to tell us if we was to all get together and move there, that there wouldn't be a pushback. Because from what I'm hearing, in certain places in Africa, there is a pushback against Black Americans. Even though they have their own tribal wars, who wants to go through that? And then I heard someone say, well, we want to stay here because of food stamps. Give me a break. And Medicaid. No, I believe that I believe every country should have a safety net for their people, no matter what it is. You could call it food stamps, Medicaid, health insurance, health, whatever. Diaspora has gone to Africa and developed clinics in Africa. So that's like a form of safety net. So I don't know why anyone would even think that is an issue. To me, that's like a mental going backwards there to say that's why we won't get together with Africa. Me personally, as a Pan-Africanist used to be, I'm going to tell you, I've tried to work with a lot of people from Africa. I had an organization under the United Nations, an NGO, in my 20s and 30s. So what I see right now, I think ADOS has to get together and take care of ADOS because we're still scattered, even within the United States. And I see that personally with my family, and I see a regression because we're scattered. And I believe that we need to get together first on this land because we've been gentrified and policies are and legislations is being passed against us.
Right,
so
right.
that
So
doesn't make
Mashawn,
yeah.
that was going to be my question. You mentioned safety net, and I was going to do a separate show on this tomorrow. So the Black population in LA has shrunk tremendously. Same thing in New York City, in Harlem, Compton, Watts, now predominantly Hispanic, South Central, now predominantly Hispanic. Atlanta is shrinking. Pretty much all these major cities, the Black population is shrinking. You see what's going on in Jackson, Mississippi right now, as far as the water issue. You saw what's going on in Flint.
Yes, but
So
the waters is drying out.
When you say safety net, what do you mean?
We need some type of safety net. We need to build something, a foundation where if we leave, we are covered. Put it that way. Financially, we need some type of land. We need something sealed in writing, documented. You see how the King of England, when they go before the seals they talk about, they put it in writing and it's sealed by the king and queen. Now, whoever's going to carry that out, that's for us to decide if that was to ever happen. That's what I mean about safety net. Something put in writing.
Okay.
Give me a document, not just a passport. Not just say, oh, we citizenship, because when immigrants come to the United States of America, there are programs already here for them. They do have access to some type of monetary fund.
Okay, so what programs do they have access to that FBA, ADOS don't have access to?
If we was to go to Africa, there's no
Okay, I'm asking here in America. I know there's no, and me personally, when I go to Africa, I'm not asking for a bank program for Black Americans who just arrived.
But you're saying fighting to have a relationship.
I'm not asking for none of that. I'm not asking for none of that. Again, you said when immigrants come over here to America, they have access to resources.
They do. And we went through that before.
So what resources do they have access to? What programs do they have access to that FBA?
Remember, okay, I don't want to discuss it now, but what I'm saying is we had went through that discussion before, and I had read some of the things that they have access to. Now, there is private organizations like NGOs who do serve the immigrant community, whether it's African, Middle East, Arabs, Latinos, or whatever, Spanish, Irish. They do have some type of safety net. And also the people who were here before them has something to offer them or to help them out. Their own people, they have their own communities too.
Okay, so Mashawn, why? Okay, FBA's been here 18 generations. That's what Black Canada said. So why hasn't FBA ADOS put together, I guess, this welcoming NGO or just NGO specifically for FBA ADOS that FBA ADOS could go to get these, I guess, resources that these immigrants have access to?
You mean we should have access to their resources? Is that what you're asking me here in the United States?
That's not my question. My question is, you keep mentioning that basically immigrants have access to the resources that FBA ADOS don't.
I know personally, I
Okay,
have
so
worked
and so
with,
then Michelle, my question is, why hasn't FBA ADOS, as you claim, put together these programs or initiatives that is specifically for FBA ADOS?
now in the past there have been programs specifically put together for FBA, and ADOS I see was through the churches. But something has happened where that has come to a close. And now a lot of our,
Whose fault is that? Whose fault is
I
that?
believe it's our fault.
Okay,
I'm
okay,
not going to deny that.
so why are you mad? Why are you mad?
No, listen, what I wanted to tell you is that I was going in a direction and fighting for the relationship between our African brothers and sisters and ourselves. That's me personally. But now I have to come to a halt because I see, how can we fight for someone and with someone if we're not where we used to be? Put it that way. So now the fight is for us as ADOS to come together and establish ourselves again. Then maybe we can go in that direction. But right now we're being gentrified over here. You see what's happening in this country.
Right.
So we need to face our own.
Hold on one second, but let me real quick, Lumumba, let me
Because
pass it to
sometimes
Elvis, and I'll pass it back to
our
you.
own is our worst enemy too.
Okay, so then, Michelle, with everything you just said, the argument is, when immigrants come over here, they not partner with Black Americans, they not partner with FBA ADOS. You just admitted that FBA ADOS is struggling with being gentrified. So why would they come over here and partner with us if immigrants off the boat, in quotation marks, are trying to figure it out themselves? And we haven't built anything, or we don't have anything, or we haven't created any infrastructure.
I didn't say we haven't built anything, because we built this country.
I'm sorry, haven't I guess it's established any infrastructure that's worthwhile, per what you're saying.
There's some infrastructure, but it's not enough. And a lot of us are dying off and dying out and have been murdered off, percentage-wise.
Right, and we're the ones
Let
murdering each other. So
me pass it to Elvis.
Yes, but see, when we say we murder each other, yes.
Let me pass it to Elvis.
Okay.
Then I'm gonna pass it to Lumumba, let him respond, and I'll pass it to Brandon. Go ahead, Elvis.
Yeah, thank you, Dynast. I just quickly want to make a couple of points real quick. To gas on my point about integration, I think first generation, they have a harder time integrating in any society. So, for example, when African parents bring their kids to America, you'll find it that it's harder for them to get rid of their quote unquote accents. It's harder for them to make new friends with the Americans or African Americans, whereas their children, they find it easier to integrate, because they go to school, they interact with these, new people better. So if African Americans went to Africa, like Gaslamov was trying to say, you got to learn a language. It's way harder to learn the language once you pass 25, So maybe their kids can grow up and learn the language and learn the culture far better than their parents would. And then speaking about, African American not having an institution in the United States, you know, you have to go back in history. A lot of these, African focused organization is always uh, uh, infiltrated by the FBI. Most of them go on the investigation. They're either destroyed from within, or their leaders get knocked off. Even FBA, there's some things going on with the FBA and FBI where there's some investigation. It only takes another maybe one or two so-called FBA person who spouts FBA, ideology to commit a crime or a mass shooting, until that organization is maybe demolished by the FBI with some investigation. So for me, I understand that people going back to Africa, especially African Americans, there's only going to be a small percentage, and that's really all we really need in Africa. So it's not going to, you can't want the entire population to move to Africa for a better life, because quote unquote a better life is not in Africa in terms of economics, in terms of social structure, or even infrastructure. So I think the few people that go back to Africa and try to build and try to you know raise their families, they're
Well,
African
it
Americans.
depends where you go, Elvis. But go ahead.
Right. So those few people, we should applaud them. And then vice versa when it comes to Africa, and like you stated in the topic, what do we owe African Americans? I mean, I always say this. There's always something that we forget to piece together. We have to reconcile as a people from the continent and from here in the United States or even in the diaspora. We haven't reconciled yet. There's still some hurt there. You hear from the sisters, people who talk about what if Africa's done for us, they left us, they sold us. We have to reconcile. Until we do that, there's always going to be a divide. So I would just, make those points and somebody else can come in.
Well, so, and I would say this about that, but a lot of this is coming from individuals who are just ignorant, in my opinion, and being intellectually disingenuous. Number one.
Right.
Second,
They just want to hurt people.
that we have been over here, I think 18 generations, and that we want to think about Africa. Anyone who studied African American history knows that is vehemently false, right? Going all the way back to the first African American to repatriate, which was Paul Kufi, right? Throughout the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries, there was a bevy of not only African Americans, but African American organizations that were African minded and who were seeking to repatriate to Africa, right? If not just physically, but oftentimes even psychologically, culturally, and emotionally. We also know that unfortunately during the Holocaust of enslavement, right, that those of us that the impetus for slave revolts, slave rebellions from Haiti to Brazil to, of course, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, with Nat Turner, the impetus for slave rebellions was African cultural retention. So this whole concept and idea of someone stating we weren't thinking about no Africa is ahistorical. And I could back this up with scholarly literature, right? So I think it's very important that when we have a conversation and we can have opinions, but the information that we are quoting, what we're stating is intellectually, is factual. We're not being intellectually disingenuous, because this whole concept of we want thing about Africa is completely ahistorical.
No,
When
but Lumumba
of slave revolts was rooted in African cultural retention.
No, but the thing is, we're thinking about Africa here. We got people going back to Africa and everything like that. But if you wrote history on 2022 of FBA people, so-called, this would not be a major factor amongst FBA people. Like if you go to a barbecue, nobody's talking about this.
Right, but
we are here, though.
Understand that there's always been a segment of the African American community, unfortunately, going all the way back to chattel enslavement, that wanted to distance themselves from Africa and go through a process of historical and cultural self-abnegation for a multitude of reasons. This is a reality.
But Professor, this goes back to the point. Okay, go ahead, Brandon. Dynast, but because they said some points, but go ahead, let Brandon go.
Yeah, go ahead, Brandon.
Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, let's be real. There's an old saying that says, the truth is hard to swallow when you're choking on your foolish pride, and there's just a situation with Black America where it's just pure hypocrisy. All day long, we tell the whole world about how we over here in America going through hell. The white man don't like us. He abusing us. We don't got no opportunities, right? So as soon as someone says, okay, well, here's something that could potentially be a solution, it's like, wait a minute, leave America? And Malcolm X had a speech about this, where he talked about how the house Negro would do anything he could to cling on to the white man and stay in the big house. Albert Einstein said, beware of negative people because they have a problem for every solution. I've heard people get on here talking about, well, when we get on the bus, where do we go? To the back of the bus. Yeah, we go to the back of the bus because we want to commit foolishness and do stupid stuff, and we don't want the bus driver to see us and kick us off, right? Black people who are mature sit right in the front or the middle or wherever they could get a seat on the bus. But this is what FBA does. It's constantly moving the goalposts, constantly making these false equivalencies, these false correlations, right? Oh, look what we do. It's like the guy who says, hey, give me $1 in exchange for 5 pennies because 5 is more than 1, right? That's the mindset of these FBA types. And I keep telling everybody who wants to adopt this, well, technically I'm FBA. Those statements, they're gonna come back to haunt you because you don't ever attach yourself to something. One, where you don't control the narrative of it. Two, where you got a bunch of degenerate losers just operating totally out of control, practicing open xenophobia and chaos in public forums on the internet, right? Because you might have something you want to do in the future, and they might go do an internet search and get a bunch of 5-second clips of you. Yeah, I'm FBA. Technically, I'm FBA. Yeah, I'm taking literally. That shows you our lack of situational awareness. That shows you our lack of political awareness. When we sit up and let some pimp give us a label, and you got what's supposed to be grown ass men like, yeah, let me use that to describe myself because why it sounds cool or
Right.
it's trendy.
Right.
And I always said, Dynasty, we ain't nothing but some trendy niggas.
And the other issue, the brother Mufasa, you mentioned how
whatever's the trend, we want to jump on it. Oh, we call ourselves FBA today? Okay, stop it. We call ourselves FBA today? Okay. That's what we doing today. Let's go ahead and do it, right? But we don't even look at these people who are literally like slow. YouTube don't make you do no intelligence test, IQ test, nothing. We get up on here and let people who literally got mental illness and stuff talk amongst our people. And instead of totally dismissing them for what we know is not true, we let them keep on going and keep on going and keep on going until we've been so hypnotized by the BS they're saying. You got those of us who might be weaker minded who actually start ascribing to this stuff, right? Whatever you feed your people, that's what they're going to produce, right? They're going to be programmed on that. But ultimately, FBA is just a total contradiction. Dynasty, you said this a long time ago. These are Negro stalling tactics. Any way they can find to keep from doing anything to improve their situation on their own. FBA is not staying here because they want to build. FBA is staying here because the white man does everything for them here. And if they go anywhere else, they might just have to do something for themselves. So they're going to avoid any. Did you hear this lady talking about we need a safety net? Bro, so you're worried about safety. No, you're worried about having to get off your ass and go do work for you. And but to cover that up, people will sit up and try to make it about everything else. Oh, we wasn't thinking about
safety net is a plan. Please don't mute me. Because he's throwing insults about people being lazy. Black people are not lazy. I am not lazy. So that's a lie right there.
We ain't thinking about Africa. We ain't thinking about this. No, yeah, we are. We are. We're thinking about Africa. Yes, when you go to a cookout, black people talk about that stuff all the time. Going back to Africa has been a conversation in our community for decades. If you watch the movie Belly, what was Sincere and his wife talking about?
Hey, Brandon, you keep going in and out, Brandon. You keep going in and out.
One movie.
Sorry, if you look at the movie Belly, what was Sincere and his wife talking about doing? Going back to Africa. This has always been something on the minds of black people in America. But what do we do? Because no, you don't have the right to say that because you don't know. You haven't done no research.
Bro, you don't know.
Just saying stuff. You just
but wait,
bro, you don't know.
Can I ask you?
I've been doing research.
Hold on. Let's pass.
I've been doing research.
Okay, hold on. Let's pass it to Jughead. Go ahead, Jughead. Mute yourself, Jughead. Jughead, we can't hear you.
Oh, Dynasty, when Susie get his mic fixed, I'll stop. But I think, okay, maybe he'll come back in. But here's what I'm saying. The premise that I was saying earlier, I'm still standing by it, Mufasa. For African Americans, FBA, whatever it is, if you're coming to modern day Africa, matter of fact, go online. I'll throw him because I know his wife probably get the money. Go buy Grandmaster Amin-Ra's book, How to Survive in Modern Day Africa. He gives great tips. If you're going to come to Africa right now on the ground, right? Let me just give you a perfect example in terms of, let's say, real estate investing. In Lagos, Nigeria, when you own a property, when depending on how they pay the rent. So they pay rent yearly. Sometimes they ask for 2 years, even though the Lagos state government said you can't do that anymore. That's a lie, right? Because I just helped somebody rent the shop out here. Some of the agents were saying these people are asking for 3 years up front. But here's the thing: if you pay, let's say yearly, or you pay 2 years, that entitles you, based on Lagos state law, that they can't just throw you out after the lease is up and your rent is finished, right? They have to give you, I think, another year, and then if that doesn't work out, they have to take you to court. So these are day-to-day, interactions that if you're coming from, let's say, a state like Texas or some of the states in the South, where if you don't pay your rent as a landlord, you could just take them out. In New York, it's not like that. But these are the day-to-day interactions. So as an African American, there are a lot of things that you need to be prepared for, and that you're going to see and you're going to contend with when you get to Africa. Again, I think it's going to be
language, though, brother.
Hold on. When I say speak the language, I'm saying that in order to fully assimilate, and that's why I say Fela Kuti is probably the most legendary tether, because his family came back from Brazil. They got back to Nigeria through Sierra Leone. They settled in Ibadan because they couldn't remember exactly where they were taken from in Yoruba land. And within one generation, you can't tell a Yoruba man today that Fela Kuti is not Yoruba. Within one generation, because the people came back and fully assimilated. So what I'm saying is that for FBA or ADOS or African Americans, whatever I did, because I'm not in that conversation. The truth of the matter is, when you're having boots on the ground, it's going to be almost impossible to come there with that Americanized, or as we say in Nigeria, that Americana mentality. And it's like nobody wants to, admit that. Like, everybody's glossing over it, talking about great books by great, authors. But again, these authors a lot of times were not on the ground. And when they got on the ground, they ran into these type of day-to-day frustrations that I'm talking about. So if you are, from America and you want to get into Africa, meet some people, learn the language, or at least learn pidgin English, or learn French, or learn Swahili.
Know what you're talking about?
All right, of course, yeah, because I know this is triggering you. I know it's triggering you, Brandon. I know. Go ahead.
Stay away from the scammers.
Let me respond real quick, guys, because you guys didn't say nothing to him earlier. Let me respond to this. You got Africans who act more like Black Americans than Black Americans, even in Africa. So to say you got to give up your Black American this and that to exist in Africa, you're just a liar. You're just lying, and you keep saying that over and over.
And your mentality is going to get people scared.
I agree with you, Brandon. I think you're right.
And you guys agree with Brandon, and guess what's going to happen? You're gonna end up a disappointed Pan-African, because Brandon is BSing all of you. I'm on the ground in Nigeria right now. Brandon is deceiving you guys if you take that mentality. I'm on the ground in Nigeria right now. If you follow Brandon, you're going to be scammed and disappointed. I guarantee.
Okay.
Hold on, let him make his point.
Look, so Dynast is in Nigeria. He's a prince.
Dynast doesn't live in Nigeria.
Finish, bro.
No, I can't, because you lying to the people. Dynast don't live in Nigeria.
Finish, bro. You can't hog the panel.
No, hold on. I'm not hogging the panel. When Brandon talks, y'all don't say nothing. Don't come in and try to police me. Y'all all in all what Brandon said. Don't kiss his butt. Y'all gotta stop kissing Brandon's ass. No, y'all always love kissing Brandon's ass. Stop all that ass
You're
kissing.
being too emotional. Just let him make his point.
Hey, Dynast is not getting scammed. I'm not getting scammed. We are in Africa doing business on the continent. When you go to Africa, you do not, and this type of stuff, what Gassed Him Up says, deters a lot of people from going to the continent. You don't have to give up who you. Dynast, let's ask the host, the prince, not you bum, the prince. Dynast, have you ever felt like you had to give up who you were as a Black American to be accepted in Africa?
Yeah, but I never came to Africa announcing, "Hey, I'm a Black American."
Wait, but Dynast, let's
but do you feel like you have to give up who you are?
I don't feel like I have to give who I am, but I don't come to Africa as a Black American. That makes sense. I just come to Africa.
That's my point.
Wait, yeah, let's keep it there.
That's what I'm saying. Black Americans, no Black American go around the world screaming at the top of their lungs, "I'm a Black American." No one does that.
No, I didn't say screaming Black American. I said being an American. There's a
Bro,
lot
they're
of
gonna know
American
you're
luxuries and access that you're not
Gas,
going to get in Africa, and
gas,
Americans find that
gas,
difficult. Whether they go to Africa or they go to South
Brandon,
America,
hold on,
gas,
Brandon,
Americans
bro.
hold on,
get extreme
hold
You're
on,
culture
not
shock.
gonna be able to
here we
shake
go.
being American no matter what you
Brandon, what I'm
do.
saying is, Brandon, when I go to Africa, I try my hardest to integrate.
You embrace the culture.
Integrate, right?
Yeah, and
Right.
that's basically what Gaston is saying.
But this is a natural thing in Africa because when you go to Africa, because there's not no American culture there, you're gonna have to embrace the culture. But what Gas Up is making it seem like you're not gonna be able to be American in Africa. You can be whatever you want to be in Africa. There are
Exactly.
Americans living there in Africa right now. Now we're not talking about that. We're saying go ahead and embrace the culture, explore the culture, which people naturally do. They wouldn't be there if they didn't want to do that. What you're trying to make it seem like is Black Americans are so stupid that we need you to give us a lesson
No,
on
I never said anybody's stupid. Why are you
Dinus, I have a
lying?
question. Dinus, I
I
have
never
a
said
question.
anybody's stupid. Why are you lying?
What's your question? What's your question? And we'll pass the Kabaka. What's your question, Black Hannah?
I'm piggybacking off of the comment that Mashan was making earlier, and I want to ask you because you've been there and you've been in multiple countries about her statement about we need programs. What I started thinking about in my mind, and I'm not saying this is her point at all. I'm just saying about programs. Have you seen and do you know? And I'm thinking about the immigrants who come to America, like they have immigration where they have to learn the Constitution and have to learn, they can learn English as a second language programs. Have you seen in Africa in your visits that there are programs in different countries for us to integrate back like that? I'm not talking about monetary. I'm just talking about cultural adaptation programs for language and maybe people who help you with house or learn how to that's what I'm thinking about when I
Yeah, I
think
mean,
integrating
Black
back.
people always want somebody to hold their hand and do stuff they should
No,
do on
no,
their own.
Brandon, that's a good
oh,
point she
goddamn,
made.
Brandon.
We like
That's a
social
good
programs
question,
in
Brandon.
Africa.
You didn't have to
Yeah, we
integrate
like
the
social
country.
programs in Africa.
You didn't have to
Brandon,
do this.
Okay,
You didn't have
thank
to teach
you.
stuff
oh
on
my
their
That was
God.
my
own.
question because
Okay.
I think that something like that
No,
from coming
they
from
pick up twerking on their
Oh
own
my
from their
God.
grandma, but they need
Hold
us
on.
to
Okay,
integrate them
let
back
me
into
answer the
Africa.
question. Let me answer the question. So, Black Hannah. So, whenever I go, so this is how I operate when I go to Africa. I usually have a friend, African friend, depending on the country, here in America, that puts me in contact with his family or close friends that he trusts, that I can trust in Africa.
Say that again,
So
please.
So once I make that connection, they pretty much explain everything to me. This is how much you pay for this. This is how you ask for this. Then they'll give me hey, you've been coming back so much. So you've been coming back so much, Dinus. Why don't you speak the language? They start speaking the language to me and force me to speak the language. So it just kind of happens naturally once you make that connection. Like it'll happen.
No,
But
we want the African to do what the white man do, make a bunch of useless programs that we don't even want to take advantage of, just like he did over here. And what did it do? It made us lazy. That's why we on the internet talking about, do they have a program where somebody could teach you how to tie my shoe in Africa? That's all this stuff is. It's Negro stalling tactics, one-on-one. You're going to pick up the language from hanging around people who speak the language. That is it, and that is all. America doesn't have
But
no
Dinah just
program.
Brandon,
described
let me
a
say this. Let
program.
me say
What you
this
think?
quickly.
Brandon's always being
Wait, y'all, it's my
disingenuous.
turn, y'all. It's my turn, y'all. It's my
Go
turn.
ahead, brother. Go ahead.
It's
Man.
my turn. Yeah, go ahead. So I
The
just wanted
woman is
I
to.
just
trying to
wanted to
speak.
finish. I
Okay,
just
go
wanted
ahead.
to say, Dinus, thank you for sharing that because I have a link from a personal African that's in my state who I know who's linking me, helping to link me back. But so there is not actual programs that are set up by each country, is what you know of. That was my question,
no,
which is why
no.
Gastamup's point makes sense to me
There's
because
no
I
food
think
Listen,
stamps either.
I
In
I
case
think
went
you're
around.
wondering.
Wait,
I was in
okay, guys.
Nigeria for 4
There's
months.
Hold
54
on,
different.
let Kabaka go. But yeah, but
Go ahead.
basically, I have a point person here in America. I have an
mhm,
adopted family in Africa,
same thing
and
I'ma
they
have.
they 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 take care of everything for me. Go ahead, Kabaka.
Yeah,
Don't overthink
Yeah,
it, man.
guys,
Gastamup
just
isn't crazy about what he's saying. I mean, I'm sorry, I agree with his point.
After the
He's
brother's done, I was there. I'll talk after
Go
he's
go
done because I
go
was
ahead,
there for
Kabaka.
okay. All
4 months.
right,
I'll
cool.
tell what I
Go,
did.
Kabaka.
No worries, no worries. All right, thanks, guys. So there's 54 different countries in Africa. I mean, we can't really accurately answer a question like that. I would just research whatever country you're going to and then see if those programs exist or not. But to go to Gastamup's point, I feel like, Brandon, you're slightly missing what Gastamup is trying to say. From what he said, I did interpret it as, drop your Black Americanness, because I could just use Gastamup as an example if you don't mind, sir. So you're an immigrant to America, correct?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a booty scratching tether.
Yeah. So you when you came to America, you learned the language, integrated into the culture. You took on American customs. By doing that, do you feel like you abandoned your Yoruba culture or your Yoruba-ness?
Well, I'm not Yoruba, I'm Isoko, but no, my parents. I came to America when I was 3 years old. I was born in Mile 12 in a midwife house. I wasn't even born in the hospital. So if you're from Lagos, you know about Mile 12.
So you're an American, basically.
No, I've been going back and forth. But again, this is not about gas them up. Listen, and I'm going to let you get it, brother. The point is, you got Africans who are from the continent, and we go back home, and we get scammed by our own family members. What Dinah's just described is, again, an actual system, right? It's not a system like something you going down to your courthouse or your local your state house to get resources, but he has a family system that's in place for him. And that's all I'm saying for African Americans, that look, if you're going to go to Africa, even the Africans who come back, if your family ain't walking you through until you get the hang of things, that shit is not going to be easy.
So basically,
it's going to be, yeah, go ahead.
So basically, you two agree. I just think it's a fundamental misunderstanding of what you guys are trying to articulate. But it sounds like you guys are saying the same thing. When you get to Africa, you're just going to have to adapt. That's a survival mechanism that you'll need to have.
That is anywhere you go. If I move from here,
but most Americans don't like to adapt. That's all I'm pointing out. Americans find it hard to adapt.
Hey, Dinah, let me say this, please. Give me 30 seconds.
Wait, hold up. I'm not done yet.
Go ahead, Kabaka.
Yeah, I'm not done yet. I'll finish quickly here. All right, so that aside, just to answer the question that Dinah has, I'm not a Black American, so I'm not going to focus it on Black Americans solely. I'll just say Black people in general. The reason why I personally feel like Black people in general are, I don't know, more of an advocate for integration versus Pan-Afrikanism, it's just two basic reasons for me. Number one would be just, laziness, because Pan-Afrikanism takes a lot of work. And integration is attaching yourself to a greater society, which doesn't take as much work. And then number two, I would just say, is lack of faith in our own people and devaluing our own brands, or devaluing our own infrastructures. Sip Police comes on here pretty frequently, and he always says this thing that I agree with. He says, we devalue our own stuff, right? And this is going to kind of be a bit of a ridiculous example, but I hope you guys can follow me here. Have you guys seen the trailer for the Little Mermaid movie that's releasing soon? So the person who's playing the mermaid is Halle Bailey, who's an African American actress and singer. And what I'm seeing from Black Twitter and what people are doing is that they're praising it and they're making it seem as if it's something revolutionary or whatever. But in reality, basically all that's happening is this famous person is being casted as a token character in a movie that is white run, and the money that's going to be made to that movie is going to go to the pockets of white execs. So ultimately, at the end of the day, we're celebrating an accomplishment that is simply just the aesthetics of it and nothing that's really beneficial for our people or our children. So I'm using that example.
It could just be a Black interpretation of the movie, Little Mermaid. She's not a token character.
The prince is white. The prince is white. The prince is white. So
everybody white.
Everyone else is white. She's just the only Black person there.
And Halle is almost white.
Yeah. So basically, what I'm saying is we're going to celebrate that instead of let's create our own movies based off of like West African folklore on mermaids and such. We're not wanting to do that. We'd rather just be picked to play a role in a predominantly white movie.
Niggas can't even swim, talking about, ooh, look, that's me, the Little Mermaid. You can't even swim.
That's a negative comment. I can swim.
Okay,
My daughter was taught how to swim from 1 year old.
One mic. Let's pass it to Kabaka. Are you done?
All right. So basically, to wrap up my whole point, we're not pushing Pan-African because we'd rather just attach ourselves to white society. All right, go ahead, Mufasa.
Okay, and I agree. Hold on. Al, I forgot about Al. Then we'll pass to Mufasa. Go ahead, Al.
Good evening, everyone. Long time. Yeah. What I was gonna say regarding the going to Africa, what you need is you just need to be polite. Make sure you have a connection, like a family member in Africa. Or like a family member or a friend in the US that got family in Africa, where you actually trust them. That's number one. Number two, regarding the Sierra Leone passport, it used to be one of the most valuable passports in Africa. It was one of the most visa-free passport, and I believe in the future it's gonna get to that point also. That's my contribution really to the show. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, because the thing when it comes to this, going back to a lot of our people overthink this thing way too far. And the point I'm saying is, like, you don't have to learn how to speak no language. You don't have to speak with a funny accent that you're just gonna look stupid most of the time. You just need to have some common sense. Go there, you talk to some people. Like he's saying, oh, you can't go to the market unless you have an accent. No, if I talk to people, hey, how much are avocados? How much are avocados? They tell me, hey, the avocados is this price. Then I go there and I say in English, and just the way I'm talking to you now, or maybe a little bit of an accent so they understand me, I'm only paying this price because that's the price. And then you negotiate. Like what I do when I go to places, what I'll do is I'll lowball the price. I anchor. It's called anchoring. So what the people will do, they'll go up to a person with an English accent, American accent, and they'll say, how much is this? I'll get a general idea from people. They'll say, hey, this should cost 1,000 naira. And I'll go up to them and I'll say, I'll give you 800 naira and anchor the price low. And then we'll negotiate from there, and I'll get somewhere around where I should be, and I'll go from there. So you just got to be strategic and talk to some people, obviously, but you don't need people to walk you around unless it's some type of war or some situation like that. You need someone to tell you what to do, maybe get you going at first. You definitely need to know some people on ground. But I was going around Nigeria, all these different places. The only place I didn't really go around on my own was in Kano, because they didn't really speak a lot of English. I walked around on my own, but I didn't talk to a lot of people. But Lagos, all these other places, bro, I'll get up, take the Danfo, take the BRT, walk around, take all of that, talking with my regular accent everywhere I go, market, anything. You can do all of these things, bro. You don't need to speak in no accent.
What you're saying sounds like one of those fantasy movies that they were just talking about to me. You cannot tell me that we are 18 generations away from the continent, and these Africans who are much closer to the continent and generations than we are can't give us a roadmap back to the land. We can't just keep dismissing what they're saying.
No, they should. But what I'm saying is,
we can't dismiss what they're saying.
Can I have an avocado, my sister? You don't got to do all that weird shit. Just talk regular.
Exactly.
Nobody even said that. Who said that? I didn't even hear nobody make no statement like that.
And to your point, Miss Hannah, let me say this. Let me say this quickly, please. Like right now, where I'm living at, right? I live in Minnesota, right? There's a large Liberian population here. And just to give you an example, the lady that killed that kid, Dante Wright, her name is Kim Potter. I knew her personally. She knew my family. One of the things that they do here in Minnesota, when we have new wave of African immigrants, they'll have a class with the police department, teach them what the rules are when you're driving, different things. Even right now from my house, there's a community center where they have adult literacy for African immigrants. They have that little big old building where African immigrants can come and, and learn how to read English and, get them better acclimated with the society here. And that's what the lack of infrastructure comes from in Africa. Would you rather go and have to barter for a price, or go into a store and see the price written on the item? Then you know how much you have to pay for it. So a lot of us, when we come to America, we go back to Africa, and it's harder for us to barter, something that we were used to before, because we're just used to paying the prices that's listed on the items here. So I think what the sister is saying has some points to it, because a lot of us come to the United States, and there are varieties of programs where we can go to and get better acclimated with the society and know how to integrate better with the country that we're in. Whereas in Africa, like the brother was saying, you have to walk around himself. You got to kind of learn as you go. And maybe for some people that's better, but for others, they might have a hard time integrating that way.
Yeah, I mean, there's some sense in that. There's some
sense in that. But hold on, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Listen, again, I'm not here on YouTube to put my personal business out there for anybody. That to me doesn't make any sense. But at the end of the day, I'm on with boots on the ground. Like I said, I'm helping people actually rent shops. For example, you want to rent the shop in Lagos because here's what's going to happen. Let's say you say, gas them up, don't know what we're talking about. Fine, don't listen to me. What they're going to do to you, they're going to rush you off to somewhere in Lekki or some highbrow neighborhood for the most part. And they're going to just keep milking you for dollars. Something that, like, you know, Mufasa is saying, because he's able to, you know, walk the streets and he's putting himself out there. But again, hold on, wait, let me finish. Let me give you an example. There's a difference between visiting Africa and living in Africa, right?
Yep.
So if you want to visit Africa for Pan-Africanism, that makes sense. I'm not trying to tell you not to visit. Of course, visit. But I'm saying if you're trying to live and do business. So again, let me give you an example of a shop. The government of Lagos says you're not supposed to take 2 years rent. That's what they say. But go and tell that to the agents. Anybody when don't open shop for Lagos will tell you you're at the mercy of the agents. Now, guess what? After you do that, they're going to give you agency and agreement fee. And guess what? The other part comes in. They'll ask you, is this one a Yoruba person? Are you Yoruba? Now, when the Yoruba side kicks in, the Yorubas will put their people in the prime real estate areas on the top street. The Igbos will do the same thing. The Yoruba man will ask you, they'll say, and what do you want to sell? So let's say you want to sell, you know, children's clothes. They'll tell you you can't have a shop next to somebody else who wants to sell children's clothes. The Igbos people, they don't care. They'll have 10 people selling the same thing right next to each other. So these are little nuances. And I'm talking about doing business on the ground. No one's going to tell you that, hey, when you want to have a corporation in Africa, you actually have, in Nigeria, you have to have a Nigerian on your board. So these are little things. Or when you want to get legal things done, the lawyer, you got to have a good lawyer, and then you got to have a lawyer that's not going to cheat you. I had a dude reach out to a lawyer. This lady was telling him 800,000 naira for something that he could have went down to the local secretariat office and got it done. So again, I'm only saying this so people don't, because even Africans who have been in Germany for 20 years, who have been in London for 15 years, who've been in New York for all these years, when they go back, they get the circles ran around them. So I'm saying, yeah, if you want to visit,
you have to have a local person.
Exactly. So when you're telling people, when they're telling people, oh, just come and nothing's gonna happen to you, no, you can't be silly. But immigrants, when, like the brother's saying, when immigrants come, they give them a way to acclimate to the environment. And Brent, you know what I'm saying? Nah, we have. I don't want Americans to be scammed or to be disappointed Pan-Africanists. I'm saying this out of love.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm saying it out of love. I'm not saying
We don't want the experience to be bad in their own.
Exactly, because I'm telling you, somebody who got family members who people that sent money back home for them to build a house. You come back, the cousin didn't build a house properly. They ate your money.
Saying that, yeah, like I've seen Dynasty himself in Freetown in the market because I'm very familiar to that market. Right, he's there with his tour, and the way he's negotiating things around there. Yeah, it's just like the local people who do it. So, well, obviously that's probably different because you've already been there before. You know how the system works in Sierra Leone. But he actually was really good at negotiating the price and how he talked to the people and stuff like that because he did it live, which is quite good because you have to be sometimes.
But Dynast has experience.
Yes, that's different.
And also keep in mind, Dynast doesn't live for the most part on a day-to-day. He stays in Nigeria, he stays in Sierra Leone, but he's not living there on a day-to-day. I don't know his business. So what I'm saying is if you're taking Dynast, and Dynast just told you, he typically has family and people that he has built a great relationship with that walk him through. And that's everywhere. Yeah, so again, when you want to get your bank, when you want to go get your bank, let me give you an example with dollars, right? In Nigeria, when you want to get dollars right now, you can send your dollars to your Nigerian DOM account, the domiciliary account. That's what they call it, right?
True.
But guess what? But wait, listen. Let me tell you what's happening with the dollars. When you want to withdraw your dollars, when you go to the banks, here's what they'll do. If let's say you send $10,000 back, you save money, you send $10,000 back. You go to UVA Bank or Zenith, and you want to withdraw your money. They might tell you we don't have that amount there. Let's say you want to take out a certain amount, or let's say you take out $2,000. The Bureau de Change, that's the Fulani and the Hausa men who normally handle the converting of money, they only want to take a $100 bill or a $50 bill. They don't want 20s, they don't want 10s. So if you give them a 20, 10, or a 5, they'll change it for less money. So right now, the Naira to $1 is about $1.700 Naira, or 703 as of today, because I just left Lagos Island. Now, when you go to your bank, The bank lady's not going to tell you that most of the dollars there, she's going to give it to her friends, or she's going to give it to the big or guys at the top first. You understand? They'll just, oh, okay, you're America. Okay, yo, just give him all 20s. They give you all 20s. You go to the Fulani dude to go change your money, and he tells you, nah, I can't change it for 700. I'll change it to you, for 624. And you sitting there like, damn, these Africans scammed me. No, because you don't got nobody walking you through. So I don't tell people to just go into Africa just the same way I wouldn't tell some African immigrant, yo, just walk through East New York or walk through College Park. It's all fine and dandy.
Yeah, but
You'll blend in.
Dennis,
Come on, man. Why are we doing that to people?
Dennis,
to be honest
when
with
you
you,
coming back out east? Dennis?
Say that again.
When you coming back out east? When you coming to Rwanda, man?
I'll be in Zanzibar in November next year for the tour.
Oh, nice. You should stop by Rwanda if you can, man.
If I have time, I'll stop by. I'm not really excited about Rwanda, but
but if you do, you should go to Lake Kivu.
Okay.
Yeah, but basically, you did sum it up really. To be honest, Gassimo, visiting and going to do business in Africa is totally two different catfish. Definitely, because the thing is, if you're going to do business, you're more likely to be exposed to the deep end, right? Just like anything, really. To be honest, so yeah, visiting, it's easier. If if you're polite, someone in America that got family member back in the state and back in Africa that you trust, that can get you around. Show you obviously places and help you negotiate.
Danny, somebody posted on the chat, The Cure said they was cheated many times in Sierra Leone.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, like in Guinea, for example.
You get what I'm saying? No, I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm saying, but
in Guinea, no, but it's possible anywhere, not only in Sierra Leone. And like in Guinea, for example, I know people that came out of the airport, they got followed home. You know what I mean? That was the end of their fucking life. You know what I mean? Sorry about that, but that's how it could be. Basically, it could be bad experience from the first night you land.
How were they? Listen, the person that was cheated. How were you cheated? In fact, links in the chat. I'm calling. Let me know how you're treated in Sierra Leone. King Sheik, go ahead and unmute yourself, King Sheik.
Hey, everybody. Can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, we hear you loud and clear. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, I just wanted to say that addressing gas them up specifically, I hear what you're saying, but one of the things I think that holds Africa back per se is that mentality, that present consumption mentality. Like I gotta get it right now because I may not have this opportunity again. So a lot of times an African will see an American or another foreigner come in, and like you said, yeah, they'll want to take advantage of them. But see, that's not good in the long run because it leaves, those people who come in with a bad taste in their mouth, so to speak. So I think that that's something that needs to change on the part of, mainland Africans. You have to start just resisting that urge to, make that score, right then and there, and try to build relationships, over time, because it'll be more profitable in the long run that way. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I agree with you. I agree with you 1,000%. I fight the Africans, or my Nigerian people all the time. Why not they do like this now? This behavior is bad. I'm fighting them all the time because I know that, hey, listen, people like Dynas, people like yourself want to come to Africa and do legitimate business, and you don't want to sit down. Look, I'll give you a personal anecdote, which I tend not to do. I have a lady who sews clothes for me. Her price initially, I think she told me everything was like 60,000 naira. She just texted me and said, oh, I only charged you for most of the material. I forgot to charge you for this and this for the sewing. So I told her, I said, look, madam, next time, tell me your price up front. Don't tell me that you got to get material. Listen, whatever the price is for sewing, tell me what the price is for everything. If that's the case, I'll go buy my materials. I'll give you guys another example. I had to fix a roof, right? I'm helping somebody who's over there in the US. They couldn't come this summer, so their roof was leaking in their house in Nigeria. So these people stay in the Ikotun area near Lasu. So for all the people in the chat typing nonsense about gas them up, I'm on the streets. I'm in that juggler. I'm in that chakra. I'm in Oshodi. You guys are hiding in Lekki because guess what? The average Nigerian, the average, yeah, you know, they're retarded, but the average Nigerian don't got enough money to put well, they're not going to spend that. They have money. They're not going to spend their data to be on these platforms. But I'm going there to help the person fix the roof. The roofing dude tells me it's a certain price. So I said, okay, no problem. I said, let's go buy the materials together. Right away, I saw the look on his face change because I could tell what he wanted to get, he's not going to get it no more. So we broke out in the Danfo, we broke out on the Okada, we went all the way to this place called Paco where they sell, you know, the wood. We went, got the zinc, we got the FET, that's what they call it, the roofing material. We got everything we needed. I paid straight up and I said, look, just do your workmanship. So this is having, again, boots on the ground. You got to roll your sleeves up and get out there and get in the mud, as they say in America. And so when I'm saying that African Americans, in order to come to Africa and do business, not to visit, but to do business and live, it's going to be hard when you walking in there to the bank. Yeah, I want to open up an account for $1,000. You better hide that accent. You better come in there with that. I won't open U.S. accounts. And I get my person in there. You better do it that way, because if you sit there saying, no, you can go there and do this, they're going to scam you, bro.
Or you have to be really firm with these people, regardless of your accent. Because, you know,
yes.
like in Sierra Leone, for example, people that come from upline, like outside Freetown, that come to Freetown to buy stuff, they obviously get charged sometimes differently, even though they're all Sierra Leoneans, but differently to the people that live in Freetown. Or if Sierra Leonean going to Guinea to buy market, they know they're Sierra Leonean, they call them Kemp man, because that's why a lot of Sierra Leonean go buy market and bring it back to Sierra Leone to sell. Or back in the days, they used to go to Liberia. You know, they can tell by the accent. So it's not just because you're African American or you're coming from foreign country. It's basically, you know, it's just nature, isn't it? You know,
no, that's how people, that's how they get down. But even being firm, again, with the banks, you open up a bank account. I don't know if that ever happened to you, Dynas. Soon as I open up an account, right, one of the banks I went to, within like a week, I started getting calls. And I'm like, wait a minute, how did these people get my number, my Nigerian number?
Hey,
of course, the person at the bank.
Okay, gas them up.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're explaining it. I was getting the phone calls too.
Okay, you was getting the phone calls. Now, how do you think they got your number? Of course, they got your number from the people at the bank. The people at the bank got their people that they work with. Oh yeah, call this one, and then amirdynast. Yeah, he say come from America. In there, YouTube, but they make money. Money day. I bet call him Joe. Now Mugu. This is how some of them think. Not all. This is how some of them think. So if Dynast is my man, I'm gonna be like, yo, Dynast, listen, go with, you know, somebody like Al and make sure Al walk you through. You know what I'm saying? This. Even your Nigerian passport, if you don't get, funny enough, if you don't get your passport initiated in Nigeria, whatever embassy you go to, it says where your passport was initiated. So let's say you got your Nigerian passport in the Nigerian embassy in London or in Malaysia, it says Malaysia. You think when you take your ID, because in Nigeria, they use the NIN certificate as your form of ID on a daily basis. They don't use their passport or they use the driver license, but most people use the NIN. So when they take your Nigerian passport to prove your identification and the person at the bank sees, oh, Malaysia, what do you think they're going to say to themselves? Oh, this one is not from here. Those are the indirect things. So I'm on the ground telling people, nah, come to Africa. But it's the same way if I told an African immigrant, go down there, you know, to Gun Hill Road or the Fordham Road in the Bronx.
And also,
watch your back.
This is why it's important to have. This is why it's important to have that ECOWAS passport, for example, if you go into West Africa in general, because even at the immigration or, you know, inland areas like that, when they know you got local passport or local ID, they treat you differently. And also, they don't expect that much money from you, because even though you might have a little bit of foreign accent or whatever, because they'll know straight away this guy is quite local. You know exactly what the tricks are. But if you're traveling around with your American passport, not ECOWAS passport, that's when you're gonna get a bit of drama from the authorities, you know, from the banks, you know, and so on. So basically, it's very important to have that.
Gas them up in Dynast. Remember, I was on talking about there's a FBA program and immigrants are there, small business. Do you remember when I said that, gas them up in Dynast?
I was earlier today. I heard it. Yes,
that was a couple of weeks ago.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the reason why I brought that up is because I don't understand how now there's $1.3 billion. They said bogus account, money missing from America, where the Department of Justice have investigated, and those accounts are leaked to Nigeria and other African countries.
Sister, let me just say one thing. Yeah, you know, sometimes the way
Wait,
you
can she
sound,
clarify that?
the way she
Because I
sounds
don't understand.
sometimes, yeah, the way she sound here, the way she talk down a little bit on African and stuff like that, she kind of remind me of the racist white person in the UK.
1.9 Bill, this is on document. You can look it up.
So 1.9 billion was missing from the SBA loans, and it ended up in Nigeria and other African countries. Yeah, but sister, again, this is what I'm saying, right?
But
Sister, listen.
How did that happen? I don't understand.
I can
because
explain it. Listen,
names
I can
that
tell
were
you.
mentioned, I am a part of that group. But go ahead.
Listen, people are frauding everywhere. The biggest scammers from the
Regardless of the
research, look
nationality,
at
whether
it.
they're
It's not.
Nigerian
Wait.
or
It's not just the Nigerian. Because I'm not. You know, I'm not here to tell her to come to Africa or anything like that. And I have no beef with you, sister. But what I'm saying is this: the biggest scammers are actually the Israelis and the Russians. If you look at in terms of where the most scams are originating, in Eastern Europe, the Romanians and all these other places. But yeah, if the Nigerians are not too far behind scamming. You saw Hush Puppy and all these people, and unfortunately, there's a group of people who are engaged in that. But what I was saying to you and to Hannah, and I think she's still on, was that look, when you're coming to Africa, you're gonna have to deal with that type of mentality because you, like I said, sister, you got scammers. I live in New York City. You understand what I'm saying? We know how it gets down. You go down to 28th Street, you go down to Canal Street. A lot of them people, them dudes are scamming and ripping and running just the same way them boys is doing in Lagos Island. You get what I'm saying? It's the same mentality, like the brother was saying. We want it now. So you know, no, but I just want to say this last sentence to her. I want to say the sentence to her real quick. Is that hold on, bro? Let me tell her the sentence.
Yeah.
It might be. I don't know. I don't follow scammers. But what I'm saying is this: that sister is that I won't encourage you to go to Africa until you have someone who can walk you through and until you are ready to adopt an alternative. That doesn't mean you have to throw away your African-American identity, but an alternative identity that you can use to survive in whatever African country you choose to go, whether it's Ghana, Nigeria, or wherever. You choose this new identity, this new accent, this new language you want to speak, and you don't have to, but I'm saying it'll be a lot easier to assimilate and move back and forth and move seamlessly if you want to do business. Now, if you want to visit, yeah, you can come in and they'll tell you that this thing is $2 and it's really 34 cents. You know what I'm saying? And they'll get you. And that's every country you go to,
Gassima, your rationale makes complete sense to me. I don't know about the other panelists, but I'm gonna go ahead and close, Dynas, in the final statement that I want to make about the subject.
Before you go, sister, can I say one thing? Yeah, please. I know you got issues, a little bit issues, African brothers and sisters.
Whoa, who said that?
Well, the way you sound like, you like African coming.
Is he talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking to you, right? Yeah, I'm talking to you. Basically, it sounds like you got a bit of issue with African immigrant a little bit. Well, calm it down. Yeah, calm it down a little bit. Because at the end of the day,
what did I say about Africans, sir?
No, I'm on here too, so
because he can't be. I love African. I don't even know who he's really talking to.
Is that Moshun, isn't it? Moshun, right?
No, this was Black Hannah trying to close out.
I apologize.
No, I love Africans. In fact, Africans make more sense to me than Black Americans in my city.
I take it back.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say this, Dynas. I like the subject. We might need to do a part 2 on this matter because, but the point I want to say is, to me, Africa is our home. I know we haven't been there, but white people remind us every day that we're not home, and they'll tell you to your face. I just had a white kid in my neighborhood over here call me a nigger not even 30 days ago.
Wow.
And so I'm just here to tell you that if Black folks, after all we've been through, think that they are home, I think that the Blacks who think that are home. And the rest of us need to go ahead and assimilate back to the land, because you can't tell me that there was one original African descendant who landed on this land in chains who ever stopped wanting to return home. And it is my goal personally to complete my bloodline and return the blood back to the land. And so that's what I'm about, and that's why I love the Pan-Africanist movement. I ain't thinking shit about integrating nothing but back to Africa. And so
Yes.
you all have a good rest of your evening. I
Thank you.
love you
Thank you
all.
very much. Thank
Have
you.
a good rest. I'll be
Yeah,
listening
Hey,
to the
let me read.
closeout.
Dinus,
Yeah, let me
can I
read this.
say something?
Let me read the super. Let me read the super chat. PCH rides. When Black people fight for something in America, it should be a fight for us all. Every other people fight for their own, but FBA fights Africans as if they are not our people. Others are winning. Okay, here we go.
Very true.
Go ahead,
Hey,
and make your statement. I
Dinus,
got the HRH. Go ahead, King Sheik. Go
yeah.
ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What I wanted to say is um addressing Gas Me Up and any other Africans that may be on the panel. See, with us African Americans, it's almost like a child that was I don't want to say abandoned by their parents, but they were adopted by another family, and all of their life they have been dreaming about, well, one day I'm going to meet my mother, I'm going to meet my blood kin, my family. One day I'm going to meet them, and that one day comes, and then they meet their family, and then they find out, that their family, you know, they may be like, say, from the big city in New York, and they're just a country bumpkin, and they meet their family, and their family members are trying to scam them. They're, seeing them as as an easy mark or whatever. So that adopted child is hurt. So a lot of times that's how us as African Americans feel when we go over to Africa, and we meet you guys, and we're so excited. We're like, wow, I'm home. I'm on the soil, and then all of a sudden, here comes the scam. you know.
Yeah,
So it's
that's
like
sad part.
it's kind of a letdown, and it really hurts. Or when we make overtures to you all to want to, be a part of you all's culture. For instance, the heavyweight boxer, I forget his name, but at one point, he was
Deontay
walking
Wilder.
around with he was walking around with the Nigerian flag, and he was, because he had taken a DNA test, and so he was saying,
Yeah,
yeah,
he's
I'm
Benin.
Nigerian.
Yeah, he's from
Yeah,
Benin,
but
Benin Kingdom.
but he was in a lot of places and spaces, he was basically rebuffed. you know. So that
Right.
hurts, when
Yeah.
when that happens to us.
No, I
You know what I
agree.
mean?
I
And
agree.
the Akata, the
What places?
Akata.
No, King Sheik. What places or spaces was he debunked or whatever?
Well, I don't really remember, but I think
Well,
it
no,
was
Benin didn't.
another.
They didn't welcome him. He was supposed to go back, and I don't think I believe, if I'm not mistaken, shout out to Deontay Wilder, Roll Tide.
You know
I
that.
was out there in Tuscaloosa
I
for
never
some
knew
time,
that, but I got more respect for him now,
Yeah,
definitely.
but
yeah, and
so
also about the whole Akata thing. Now, it may not be an insult, which I really don't think it is.
Dude, no,
See here,
no FBA has ever been called a kata to their face by an African man. What do you
yeah,
just?
yeah,
I wish we would
I
just dead
understand.
this whole Wakata thing, man. I wish we would just dead that. Like
Yeah, I
it's
understand
enough,
that, Prince. I don't think it's an insult, but here's my point. The way I explained it, us being like a child that's going back to search out their birth father, their birth mother, their family. Any type of word that suggests that we're not accepted, the least little word, you understand? We're very sensitive about it. So
dude.
even
That
though
word is not.
it may
That word is
even
not. When I'm in Africa, and I've asked people I'm in Yoruba land all the time, and I'll ask this Akata word. They have even no clue what it means. It's just this Akata thing. We got to grow up and get over
but
it.
Akata
but
is again
I'm
what
just
they encountered when they came to America. A lot of
No,
here's what happened. The Akata
it's not
thing
about
happened when
that.
African immigrants came to America and they encountered inner city behaviors from some African Americans. And basically it was acknowledging that African Americans give it up sometimes. You know that, you know what I'm saying? You from the soil, you know these young boys are steppers, you know how they give it up. And so for an African, a lot of them who are conservative immigrants, they come from well-to-do backgrounds during the 80s when the IMF started, decimating their countries, they started fleeing in droves. You start encountering, because even those Africans, they don't even go to the inner cities in their neighborhood. Like I challenge them all the time. They're not going to Oshodi in Nigeria. Most of these people on the chat, they're hiding out in Lekki and Victoria Island. You understand what I'm saying? So it's a terrible thing to say personally, but it was said as a reaction to some of the inner city behavior. But even in for example, amongst the Igbo people, you have the Osu thing where some Igbos, you can't marry another Igbo person because of the lineage, saying that, yo, you're not actually of the soil. And this stuff goes deep. Like they won't let them get married at all. The Osu thing, you can Google it. It's dying
Well,
away slowly, which is a good thing.
that's very
You know what I'm
common.
saying?
That's very common with most African
This
tribes.
is what I'm saying. So no, but I want to point, because the brother said a great point. Unfortunately, brother, Africa is not in many instances. The African American is a little bit advanced in terms of that type of being woke. Africa is not there yet because the governments of Africa are keeping the people poor, hungry. They're in that, fight or flight mentality. They just want to get money by any means.
To be
So this is
honest,
what
to be
the
honest, I don't know
conditions. Hold
Nigerians.
on, brother. Wait, brother. Let me finish, please. This is what's happening on the grounds with the African governments. The African governments, in cahoots with their Western masters, are keeping the African people on the continent deaf, dumb, and blind. They don't even teach history in the African schools. In Nigeria, for example, in particular, no one teaches about the slave trade. It's not in any WAEC exam. When you graduate high school in Nigeria, you have to take the WAEC exam, or you take NECO, or you take GCE or JAM. There is no topic on slavery. History in the Nigerian school system, you take government, and it starts at the McPherson Constitution and Lord Lugard, a white man who colonized Nigeria with his jump-off side piece, Flora Shaw. So this is what you're dealing with on the ground. So unfortunately, and I hope, not all, because Dynast can attest, when he goes back home, he's welcomed. You understand what I'm saying? Not all, but it's not across the board yet. I pray it gets there, and I'm one of the people on the ground who'll be fighting. Like, yo, we're not doing that scamming behavior, man. Chill out with all that. But you got to see how they look at me. You understand what I'm saying? They come at me too.
Yeah.
So it's hard, brother. Just the same way with your people, If I tell you go to College Park, hold on, brother. If I tell you to go to College,
I want to clarify myself.
Go ahead, I don't. Yeah, I want to clarify myself. I don't think it's an insult. All I'm doing is just trying to, maybe let Africans see from our perspective how we might feel. Now, I don't think it's an insult, myself personally. But what it is that we're so bright-eyed and we're bushy-tailed when we go to Africa because, like I said, it's like that whole Antoine Fisher thing. If anybody's ever seen that movie, when he was dreaming about meeting his birth parents one day. So any type, even though that word may not be an insult, and I don't believe it is, but any type of word that suggests that we're not accepted in any way, we tend to get real sensitive about it, meaning us African Americans. Not me personally, but I'm just showing you that that's why you may get some of the kickback that you get.
Oh man,
so
we gotta get over that. We Joan and clown on each other.
Yeah, we do.
But I cannot agree.
We do. You're right, Prince. You're right, Prince.
I mean, Tariq just did a video on Brandon, the Bussy Bear, and we do this shit all day. But goddamn, we want to draw the line at we want to draw the line at Akata. Like anybody got time for that shit,
you're right, Prince.
HRH knee. Go unmute yourself.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
Well done.
Good. Pleasure to be on here. Y'all was just checking out the information. Been watching for a long time, Dynast. Thank you for what you're doing all around the world. And tonight, I was in Ghana for a year. In short, I just came back home in May. I went over there for business to do, got enthroned, installed, all type of stuff like that. Everything that the brother is saying, gassed him up, is actually right. They do a lot of, you are going to go over there, you're going to be extra happy. You're going to be so overwhelmed. And then certain people like that can probably see a weakness. There's going to be a lot of people that's going to be trying to get money out of you and stuff like that. But coming from America, you should kind of expect that once you not visiting and you there living, in Africa and you see the conditions and you see the blessings of where you come from and what we've been through and what we can actually bring over there, you have to calm that down and start seeing actually what you can do, right? If you love Africa, are you there to uplift? Are you there to try to do something other than just being a tourist? So I was there for development. So as a developer, I have to go around and look at different things, deal with different people, deal with different chiefs. Basically, you got to delve in the culture and just basically with the normal people. But like you're saying, the government officials in them, they're very, in Ghana, they call it chop chop. Every time you want to talk about something, everybody wants some money up front. They want some money here, they want some money there, because you coming from America, they expect for you to do everything. And yes, I was called a white man, I don't know how many times. And I never took it offensive because I understood that somebody explained it to me, because I'm from Los Angeles, so I'm gonna jump out on that real fast. And then somebody gonna say, hold on, that's not what he means. He don't mean like your complexion. He means like your culture. And I had to sit back and I have to say he's right. I'm in Ghana to do treaties because I also have American Indian ancestry, records and all of that, and I'm a chief over here. And I went out there and got made a chief there as well because I have blood ties there as well. But as far as my culture being white, yeah, you're right. How else would you look at me? You understand what I'm saying? I don't speak the language. I'm coming over there with my American clothes. I got the American accent. I have everything. My whole culture is blended in with foreigners, period. If you're from New York, you're from Los Angeles, you're from Miami, you understand what I'm talking about. You're from these major cities, then you understand. So it's not hard for us to go to any of these type of places and blend in and make things happen. Or it's not hard for us to understand how people will perceive us, because being in these big cities that we're at, we always got foreigners that come to our schools. And we always mistreat them. We make fun of them. That's the stuff we used to do in the 80s. You African booty scratcher, get up out of here. All that old type of stuff. We did that. You come to our school, we'd change your culture in 2 weeks. You'll be acting like us in 3 months, denying your own culture. You understand what I'm saying? So we do that as well. So like, let me say this real short. My big bro is over in Ethiopia. I'm supposed to be over there doing certain things because we got major things going over there. But I ended up going to Ghana, and great things end up happening in Ghana. He put me on a phone call with these diasporan folks. That one was from Uganda, another one was from England, another one was from America, and a couple more from Africa. I listened to them talk for about 35 minutes, and then they asked me to speak, and I was like appalled of their whole dialogue, because when I thought of African diaspora, this was last year, probably about October. So I'm listening to their dialogue and I'm not understanding what's going on, because being a so-called African American and the things that we went through, I didn't hear none of that on the table. So I asked, the sister from Ghana, I basically asked the panel, what's your nationality? Everybody gave some. What country are you people from? What's your tribe? What's the name of your chief? What's the culture? What's your food? What regalia do you guys wear? Like, I just started asking a bunch of questions, and everybody could answer that stuff. So if you can answer, then the main thing I wanted to know is, are you first or second generation? And then they were mainly first or second. And so I didn't consider that a diasporan. I mean, it really is, because you live outside of the country, but I mean diasporan like for what we've been through, from how I think it was. A diasporan to me was somebody who came over here at least, or could have proof that they came over here from the transatlantic slave trade, that they had to go through the plantation lifestyle. They had to fight in the Revolutionary War. They had to fight in the Battle of 1812 and all the other wars. They had to fight in the Civil War. They had to fight. They had to go through Jim Crowism and lynching. They had to go through the Civil Rights Movement. They had to go through a lot. You understand what I'm saying? Just in order for other people to come over to our country, so to speak, to just jump in and then start grabbing certain rights, or started getting on this African American civil rights plight. So I didn't understand the conversation that they was having. Now, when I had said that, I did not mean for my big bro to go and relate that type of stuff to Tariq Nasheed, because they're very close. because my big bro was over in Ethiopia and they was putting out these videos talking about we not no black African, we not them, we not the same and all that. And he took that offensive because he's there on the ground. And so he found a political strategist, because that's what he called himself, a way to attack that theory. But it almost got me involved in it, and I'm on the ground too, and I was in Ghana, and I'm doing major things with the kingdom, so I can't be involved in bashing Africans while I'm in Africa. We shouldn't be looking towards that route. We did great things in America, we did great things for the world, and a lot of people jumped on our bandwagon, but it's not for us to, you know what I'm saying, start pointing the fingers. For us to start understanding how we can unite. Africa, they have a saying that teach us what we don't know, basically, because you in the future, and then we'll teach you what you forgot. So we have to understand how to blend those two in. I have one more thing to say.
That's good.
My brother, my young brother, Anthony, Tony Moore. I'm on Crenshaw right now. We own barbershops over here. We've been cutting the brother hair ever since he was a child. He always came in arguing with us, debating with us, just trying his best to get his noodles together. Then he ended up becoming an attorney. And then all of a sudden I hear about this African-American descendants of slavery, and then come to find out he's like the head of it. So I hit him up on DM'd him. I said, yo, what's up with this African-American descendants of slavery? Like, can you prove that? Like, how does this work? Is that for the people that went through transcending slavery? The same thing I just mentioned. Is that for those people, or is it for the Africans that just came over to Africa now? Do they get to just jump in and get all of the rights and stuff that we went through? So I was just asking these questions. I'm not posing these questions for us to have a battle of blackness. I was just posing these questions to see what was going on. Like, for instance, can you prove that your parents was a slave? Because you actually had black people like Anthony Johnson, who was the first actual recorded person to hold somebody in indefinite slavery in America, who was a brother. So I even have some people in my family, the Parhams, that owned slavery, that came over here from Europe, and they was black. I also have family members on record that I can prove was actual slaves from other sides of my family. So are we just saying, hey, yeah, I was in slavery, or are we having records? Because I'm speaking to Tony, who was an attorney. So how do you prove this in court if we are supposed to get reparations? Who is getting it? The African that just came over here, or the ones that's been over here going through the measure? And not only that, what about that so-called African or black people that was already in America? What do they get? Do they get as well? You know what I'm saying? Do we classify them as Africans if they've been over here for so long? And so, lo and behold, later on I saw it was changed to American descendants of slavery. So saying all that to say is, I'm foot on the ground in Africa, just like Brother Demir, Dynast, excuse me, a lot of you brothers are, but we have to find a way for us that's over there. We come unite. We can have certain programs where we can be able to help, but the main thing is we have to have the relations between each other. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Go ahead, gas them up. Gas them up. You there? All right, guys, listen, links in the chat room. Link is in the chat room. If you want to call in and add to the conversation, again, click on the link and call in. And
what I was gonna say, while someone else before someone else comes in terms of because I did heard you did mention earlier, Dynasty, about the black population in America going down in certain neighborhoods. Basically, in Sierra Leone, when I was young, as far as I can remember, we had African Americans, especially in the South, like Mississippi and Georgia, they used to actually file for West Africans from Sierra Leone and the neighboring countries to come to America. Basically, that boosts the population locally. So maybe that might be a step forward in terms of increasing the population. I mean, in Bristol, where I live, there was only about a few hundred of Somalis that live here, but over the years, they invited so many people from Somalia and all over the world, and they happen to be the biggest minority in the city basically in just 10 years' time. So it's possible to boost the black population in America by doing so. I don't know what you think of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, like I said, it's decreasing in certain communities. Mashawn, go ahead, Mashawn.
In closing, I was just thinking, I know we as ADOS, we gotta find our people, know who they are, connect with them and build with them first. But I also, because I had discussed this about 10 years ago, I wanted to see an embassy. I mean, that's just an idea, and I think a solution that could get the ball rolling for us as far as immigrant trade and as far as Black Americans being able to with the African brothers and sisters. I think we can have an embassy. It can be a start, because we don't. That's something that has never been done, I don't think. Thank you.
Yeah, fight for people from Africa to come over to the US and boost the population up. I mean, the Europeans are doing that with Ukraine and all these other countries. African Americans need to start doing that. Get as much as, you know, Africans from from Nigeria, West Africa, get them over, you know, to increase the population. It's easy.
But the Europeans, I just want to say, I heard a white woman a year ago yelling in New York saying that we don't belong here. Yeah, they don't. And I'm talking about America grounds.
Well, they know they not belong. They know they're European descendants, but they obviously claim to be Americans and they rule the country. You know, so you just ignore that. That's not necessary. Just get as much as young African population from the continent to the US. Yeah, over the years you benefit from that, because then when you get older, you're gonna have Africans looking after you. You know, play with your children, your nephew, your nieces. You're gonna have a Black neighborhood again. You know what I mean? Because a lot of what Europeans are going to Ukraine, adopting white children. You know, they come into Europe and they bring in. Obviously, they're making sure Europeans, you know, can travel in and out of America and actually live there. So African Americans got the solution. I mean, people are going to Africa to get passport. You should be able to do that at the same time and bring Africans back to the US and increase the population. I mean, if they're younger population,
you know what? I think that's all good, Al, but I think we need some type of screening method, because I've seen some a lot of weird things, mentality, like this 82-year-old man who was just slaughtered in his head by a machete for no reason. So on both ends, you know, that's not being biased. It's to say what type of quality or character this person is.
Yeah, I mean, you can go to Africa and live in Africa for a little while. You know, you get to know the family, you get to know the people that you're bringing back to your home. Obviously, you know, you can't just bring anyone from Africa to the US. But years ago in Sierra Leone, it used to be so easy. In fact, there used to be Black churches from Georgia and different states in the South. This is coming from the Black community that actually used to bring Sierra Leoneans to the US. I saw it. I saw the list. In fact, during the war, when the war happened in Sierra Leone, most people that migrated to America were invited by Black Americans. Most Sierra Leoneans that currently live in America now got invited by Black Americans. They went to the churches, they filed, you know, the list of people that they want, and they brought them back to America. So African Americans have done, you know, a lot of good. They actually used to come to Sierra Leone years ago before the war, and you know, they used to come there doing the. We had what they call the devil. Where, every year, end of the year, they perform different cultures, and we had African Americans from Georgia and different part of the South that used to come and, you know, be part of the show. They used to love it. It's like a religious thing. They used to come every year. So, you know, we need to start doing this kind of things again. You know, it can actually make a lot of difference. You'd be surprised.
All right, go, Philip Lindsay. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Am I on, Dynas?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thanks. Salute to the panel. Man, you guys raised a lot of great stuff. I want to say one thing off the top. Gas him up and Brandon, you guys are both brilliant. You both were basically saying the same thing. Let's not ego trip and argue. You guys were basically right. But I hopped on about some of the stuff that the last guy just talked about that was in Africa and the FBA issue, okay? And that is this. If there are going to be reparations for African Americans, it's going to require Black Americans to work with the Africans as nation states to make the claim. And here's why. The last guy that was just on brought up another problem, which is the Anthony Johnson case and what's called the John Kaser cases. And those cases, Anthony Johnson was a Black African, I want to say. I think he came from the Caribbean, but he resided in the UK and came to the United States in the 17th century. And he had a farm, and he hired this guy, I want to say John Kaser, to work on his farm. But instead of as an indentured servant, he was required to work for life. And his descendants were also required to work for life. And this becomes, so another farmer, this is in Virginia, I want to say, that another farmer, a Mzungu, sues Anthony Johnson to say, hey, he's got an unfair work advantage because he's got workers that are there for life and we have indentured servants. And then this creates kind of the foundation legally for slavery. This guy, so in other words, there was a Black person, an African of sorts, you know, although I think he came through the Caribbean, who set up a situation that later was codified into national policy, okay? And so when you start talking about reparations and trying to bring it from the descendants of slaves, you have problems like that. I've been on before and talked about the standing problem. The U.S. Supreme Court has already ruled that the injuries that were adhered to the slaves are not intergenerationally passed down, unlike some of the other groups that we know about, like Native Americans, like Jewish descendants of the Holocaust, like the Japanese Americans. And so I have always said, I mean, not like I'm Clarence Darrow or super legal scholar, but I, you know, my just, you know, tin can lawyer saying, look, the best and most recent model of reparations for a injured group injured by the United States government and its private sector was the Japanese Americans. How did they get reparations? They got reparations through a trade negotiation where Japan said, hey, we're not going to negotiate with you guys over our trade policy unless you give Japanese Americans some form of reparations for the property rights and the businesses that they lost in World War II. That's how they got it. So it is not difficult, and we've gone over this with Dynast's previous shows on reparations. I want to stay on topic about FBA and why they're not investing. But we've gone over it to say, look, if you want reparations and you're serious about it, what has to happen is the African nations, you got to do the DNA test, that African ancestry thing that Sierra Leone is requiring. You got to know where you come from first. There's no discussion unless you know what African nation your DNA, your blood came from, right? Then those countries then grandfather you back as a descendant of a citizen so that they can bring a claim saying, hey, we lost 500,000, 1 million people from our country. That the value of each one of those people is X, which we can quantify. And when they went to the United States, they were worth Y. For example, that the average slave, the profit margin, one slave was 1,200%. So you could just add that out, right? Sandy Darity has done tremendous work on this. It's not for me to do it. It's the literature is out there. But all of this stuff of, oh, we're this and they're that. No. What you've got here is Africans that were captured and intergenerationally falsely imprisoned in the United States. Period. Economically, they could not go back, not en masse. And therefore, you make the claim that way. But if you have people on the internet going out there and saying, oh, well, you know, they're like this and we're like that and blah, blah, blah. It's crazy. We can't get anywhere with that. And it's not even true. If you do the DNA test, and like, for example, I did it, that my thing primarily came back from Nigeria, then you know where you came from. There isn't a, you know, kind of lost in the sauce kind of thing on this. You know where you came from. It's right there. Your passport is in your damn DNA. So you just have to do the work to get back in it. But let's deal with what Gas 'Em Up and what the show is about. Gas 'Em Up was raising some things like, look, there is still an ethnic culture here. There's still issues in these different countries. And if you want to invest and make it fruitful, you have to work on how you're going to go into that society. Just the same way when Africans come here, they have to give some deference to Africans who are here, the ones that were sold into slavery. It's just common sense. So, you know, and I'll just leave this last point on it, which is...
Yeah, it's true. Make effort speaking maybe Yoruba, Hausa, Fulani, Mandinka.
Yeah, that's just common sense, right?
These languages I just mentioned, if you can speak like these languages in West Africa, you can travel anywhere. You'll be welcome because, you know, it's one of the most spoken languages in West Africa: Fulani, Yoruba, Hausa, Mandinka.
I'm totally with you, Brother Al.
Yeah.
And look, man, we can do this. This isn't a brain surgery. Every other group of people in the United States works with the country and continent that they came from. Chinese Americans work with China, Macau, Taiwan, Hong Kong. Italian Americans work with Italy. With, you know,
Exactly.
What the hell are we doing here? We can't work with the places we came from. We got to stop this, you know, because here's the reality. I was just talking to one of my guys in Chicago. That's where I'm originally from. I live in LA now. But look, he's telling me a day or two ago that area that's a black community, it's the Woodlawn community, has now sold huge portions of it to, I won't name the institution, at pennies on the dollar. It's a black community. But I will say this. The revolutionary Saul Alinsky and the Woodlawn Community Organization was founded to try to resist this all the way back in the 50s, right? Now it's going into place. And that kind of stuff is going to keep happening because here's the bottom line. We don't have the economic leverage to push them back.
True.
We don't have it.
That's right. That's true.
And so we got to get real about, all right, so we all agree. We all agree. So let's get on board with each other to do something about it so we can have something. Because here's the bottom line, people. We got about 5 years to get our economic act together. And I put it in the chat all the time. To retire in the United States for 2 people, it's $2.5 million, assuming you have no health issues, right? Or if you want to do it for yourself, take your highest wage right now and multiply it times 20. That's what you need for retirement. Praying that you have no health insurance, that you have no health issues, excuse me. So how are you going to get that money? If you don't have it right now, how are you going to get it? Well, Dynast and Brandon and Gas 'Em Up and countless brothers on the panel, HRH, they all have been pointing the way to you to say, look, you got to do the currency exchange now. Your dollar is worth so many naira. Your dollar is worth so many, you know, I forget what the currency is in Kenya. But the bottom line is you got to make up the money through your dollar here. That's really one of the few powers that you have, is you have your passport and you have access to U.S. credit and U.S. dollars. So we got to get on it. And the other thing is, look, if you're dealing with properties overseas and so on, you need a method to pay that's easy for you to pay. You can't be flying out to Nigeria every time you need to pay. So we need that infrastructure. We need people to build it. The remittance game. If you want to continue to go to, what's that place, Western Union, to try to send money, look, man, that's not feasible. We got to get serious, So look, I was working, but Dynas's show is so damn distracting. Thank you, Dynas.
No, you're
I had to
welcome. You're
come in
welcome.
here and drop some stuff to be like, hey, stop this damn fighting, stop this ego tripping, and let's get to work. Let's get some money. All right, so I don't want to monologue too long. Was anybody I said a lot of stuff there. Did anybody have any comments or questions or things? What the hell?
I was just, that's where the embassy to me would come in, because the embassy will have all of that, all of those services available for the Black American diaspora.
Well, arguably they would, and I texted this to Dynas. One of the things we have to understand is in Africa, as I understand it, and I'm not, a scholar, Gassam is probably a better person to speak on this, or HRH, that most of these countries don't have a tax basis like the United States. So all of these things that you were talking about, Michon, services, programs, and I'll throw in there investment visas, incubators, that you need a tax basis to build that, right? And one of the things that I'm understanding is like property tax and some of these other things, they're not really highly developed in a lot of these African nations, because that's where the programs come from. They don't come out of thin air. They come out of corporations and citizens paying taxes, and then those taxes are redistributed into programs and services and hopefully infrastructure, right? And
But in South Africa, don't they have a space for Europeans specifically, and it was written and stamped and sealed? So do England.
This is a certain, first of all, England, that's Europe, but South Africa is, for all intents and purposes, a European colony that residing in Africa, that it has a small European group that still controls the levers, of economics in that country. Does that mean that it's not an African country? Of course it's an African country, but it doesn't have the same issues that some of the other countries have, because, and let's just get to the core of it.
Do you know what I wish? I have no disrespect to Ghana, but I wish African Americans, brothers and sisters, all that effort they made in Ghana was in Sierra Leone.
Well, I mean, we could do that now, but there are different issues. Like
Sierra Leone have the link, and they had this sort of foundation, and basically they have the culture, they have all it takes to do all this.
I mean,
Dynast is working.
Can I introduce something?
Do your thing, Gassam. I'm sorry.
No, I don't mean to cut your wisdom, Brother Philip. I just want to say this one thing. I think before we move forward with any idea of anything, we have to acknowledge that none of these African countries, whether it's Sierra Leone, Nigeria, Ghana, Namibia, none of these African countries are created or chartered for Africans. Even when you look at the legal document, it is there on record. The Nigerian document of independence does not say the word independence on it. It says to continue the Queen's dominion. It's not a coincidence that Jamaica is in mourning for 12 days after, Massa Lizzie dies. So even on an actual practical level, none of these countries are run, or in terms of the documents given to them, are controlled by Africans. So in many ways, Africa is a continent that is held hostage by European real estate. And a lot of times people take that aggressive, it doesn't matter, this approach. Say, well, then if that's the case, why do we keep losing at the UN level? Why do we keep losing at these world stage levels? Because we haven't been able to organically create countries and systems that work and function for us. I believe that, hold on, since I said this, if we continuously still use these European contraptions, we're going to keep going around in circles, in my opinion.
No, this is a real thing that has to be addressed. I just will supplement that by saying most of these countries, I think all of them are under 100 years old. And, you know, the United States itself is not more than 400 years old. And in reality, a lot of the problems that we have here is because we're a very young country, and we're not a country based on land. We're a country based on settler colonialism, meaning that you require an ideology to become an American. You have to believe in a certain value system, and that's how you become an American. It's not like being born in Nigeria, which is a civilization state, or China, that's a civilization state. What's the guy's name that comes on with Dynast? I forget his name now. That does Up Close and Center. He's broke all this down.
Abube.
Yeah, that brother, brilliant brother. Look, all of this is part of the challenge. But what I think this show is about for me is Dynast is saying, hey, we're on the clock. How come you guys are willing to take all this BS that you did in the 60s to try to get access to the resources, which is what I think it was about. And at the end of the day, you haven't got most of it, and you're not willing to put that same effort to integrate with your own people and to get the bag that way. What is going on? And the answer is, unfortunately, Dynast, I think Gas him Up or maybe Brandon or both of them said that American Blacks like using the infrastructure and the comfort of having it already in place rather than having to build it themselves. That's understandable. I get that. But here's the thing. If you want to wind up like Brandon was talking about this the other day, you know, what's happening here in LA where you hardly have any Black people living here anymore. And the ones that are living here, many of them are in poverty. Many of them are now going to the black market stuff. You know, we had this young man that just got shot up in a Waffle House. Jesus Christ. You know, we can't build any kind of Roscoe's. Yeah, exactly. Roscoe's. You know, and that's another thing. And I'm just going to, man, there's so much stuff I wanted to drop on this that.
Hey, dude, take your time. Mr. Lindsay, listen, take your time. Take your time.
That we have so many successful Black businesses. And I'm from Chicago. We can't open up a Harold's anywhere on the continent. Yeah, Harold's Chicken, if you've never heard of it. Right? That's a Black family. They got like 30 or 40 chicken shacks in Chicago. Roscoe's, Fat Burger, those are Black-owned corporations. We can't open up a damn waffle and chicken house in Accra or just stuff that's we already got the formula.
But Philip, here's the problem. This is what I was saying with being American, right? If you're taking the mentality as an investor, you want to pull your money out in dollars, and now with political nonsense, for example, in a country like Nigeria, it's almost impossible to pull your money out in dollars. You know, unless you're Dangote or Denuga. It's almost impossible. So
they're using it as reserves, right, Gassama?
Yeah, well, the central bank right now is, you know, there's dollar shortages. They weren't even paying the airlines. Many airlines said, yo, we're pulling out of Nigeria because they can't get their funds in dollars. So if you open up a Harold's Chicken, which is a great idea, you know, I would love to hear have some Harold's jollof chicken with waffles and you know some sort of fonio style waffles or some cassava flour waffles. That'd be delicious. But the question is, would the investor who is from Harold's say, you know what, I'm going to keep myself in Nigeria and spend the naira? They're going to want to still get the dollars, and now that runs into the problem.
You don't need an investor. You don't need an investor, a foreign investor. There's so many people, even in, for example, like in Sierra Leone, I know there's so many Fulani people over there that got enough money. Yeah, if you give them
no, that's not what I'm saying.
That would do.
No, what I'm saying is that
to do it. Yeah.
No, we know there's money. What I'm saying is that for an American who still wants to, you know, maintain the opportunity for, you know, currency swaps and things of that nature, it's going to be difficult if you say I'm going to do business in any African country, particularly Nigeria. I don't know about Ghana, but because how do you get your naira to dollars? That's a hard thing. So yeah, the Fulani guy who has money in Sierra Leone could do it, but why is he not doing it? You know, like Dangote couldn't get money at one point in time for his refinery. Why didn't Robert Johnson and the billionaires, the African American billionaires, flow him a line of credit so he can finish that refinery? You know,
Well,
so
let's go to
it's
HRH.
crazy.
I have an answer to you, Gassam, but let's go to HRH. I think he's got something on this.
Oh no, I'm in agreement, but I don't think that we should try to exchange our money, even though that's what most people are going to want to do. You should want to keep your money in Africa and let that dollar build up in Africa. If you have a business there or a few businesses there, you should want to be like a so-called millionaire or billionaire there.
Yeah,
not trying to expect you to come back here. The average person in Ghana, I just got a text, because you know when you come home, you're gonna get a lot of texts. So I'm trying to help out as many people as I can. But this girl, she's an actual princess. She makes $45 to $100 American a month. This is your average person. You can work at McDonald's in America and build you a mansion over in Africa. And I'm not just saying in Ghana, I'm anywhere in Africa. I just went to Ghana, but I want to see all of Africa. My family is specifically Oromo from Ethiopia, so I have to go there too. But I love Ghana. Hold on. So we should want to be able to keep our finances there and build up the businesses there. We can take our money here and go there and just build up. And I'm not even talking about the city. Outside of the city, it's so much you can do. Let me say one more thing. A lot of people don't understand that. Let me tell you what I realized when I got to Ghana. Everybody was saying, "Oh, look at this condition, look at that condition." I'm like, "What condition? What are you talking about?" They have culture. I see cows, chickens, goats running everywhere on the street freely. I'm talking about they just running everywhere, running wild. There's food everywhere. We had to go to 17 different districts to finish our installment. When we went to the Animasi Kingdom, I saw food for about 2.5 hours of just food. I was going crazy. Everybody else was sleeping. My heart was just pumping back and forth. So they're not lacking in anything but our participation.
Exactly.
I agree with that. And salute to you for going and not just saying it, but doing it. I appreciate you, HRH, man. You bringing it. And all I was going to say to you was, in answer to Gassamup's query, because you're saying what at least what I know about. When I was doing work in Vietnam as a younger man, when I came out of law school, and what would happen then? Vietnam's a communist country, right? So people would get the license. Like we had a couple of clients that had exclusive licenses. One of them was a Swedish company that had the exclusive license for cell phones at that time. This was around 2000, 2001. And they would pay them in Vietnamese dong. And so they were, multi-millionaires in dong, but they wanted to transfer that Vietnamese dong back into whatever, a hard currency, a Deutschmark, a dollar, whatever. But to HRH's point, they couldn't do it because no other bank wanted $10 million in Vietnamese dong. So what do? They buy assets and they leave that money in the country and then take loans against the assets. You see, you don't need to take the hard currency out. You buy things that are worth things, and then you can leverage that into a package to borrow. But we got to be, we're not focused, man. And it frustrates me where, and look, I know that a lot of Black Americans, look, we don't get the exposure to know how these things work. And so we're kind of learning it from the bottom up. That's what Gasmup was talking about. That's what HRH is talking about. But here's the bottom line now. We got no excuses and we're out of time. so we're in a hurry up offense right now. And I bring it up to Dinas all the time because that brother was a hardcore athlete. Look, we looking at the scoreboard. We're in the third quarter, about to go in the fourth, and we trying to figure out how to make something happen. And that means everybody's got to play their position and do what we need to do. We don't have time for these divisive people. We don't have time for you this, I'm that, right? And I just gave the example of and I won't the person who should remain nameless, where he was saying, oh, the Louisianans, they're not Black Americans, they're not FBA. And then he got some pushback on it because, you know, jazz and a good part of blues came out of there. He said, oh, well, they're FBA now. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, look. The longer we play with this, the more we're not learning about what HRH and Gas 'Em Up and Brandon are talking about, which is assimilating it to the culture, making investments, small investments. You know, like you're talking about that. Look, the number one problem that Africans have everywhere, the United States, the Caribbean, Latin America, Africa, is we got to be able to feed ourselves. We got to be able
I was going to say, don't you feed your family first before you feed anybody else? Does that make sense?
How you going to feed? How you going to feed yourself when you open up a grocery store and you got to go to the Italians for the distribution and the warehouse, and you got to go to whoever runs the shipping docks at Long Beach or whatever? How are you going to do that? These aren't your people, and they have no interest in helping you get a leg up to compete with them. It ain't going to happen.
Now the question is, where's the help? Who's the help, and where's it going to come from?
You want to know?
But I'm not by myself.
No, you're not. Yeah, you just told us all the stuff you want to look to see who's saving you. Look in the mirror. That's who's saving you right there. And if you're lucky, maybe your husband. And if you're really lucky, maybe your cousins. That's who the help is. And there's nobody coming out to swim out. There ain't gonna be no program. You the program.
Right. That's why I said we gotta find out people and do what we gotta do.
No.
Where the cousins at?
You need to find yourself and what you want to do, and then you seek out your people to help you do what you want to do. Stop looking for something outside of yourself to find happiness within yourself. Look within yourself, find that happiness, and then make it happen. That's how it happens.
Exactly.
Nobody's coming to save you. And that's been, part of the problem, is that we somehow in the 1970s lost our way. We lost our way to say, nobody is coming to save us. We got to save ourselves. When they took these factories away, some of us, not all of us, some of us started, going into the black markets and becoming, super criminals and all this other stuff. We got to stop this. But look, it ain't my show. I'm dropping in just to say, hey, HRH, Gas 'Em Up, Mashan, Ayal, King Sheik, you guys got the formula, brother. We just got to work together now and stop all this foolishness of talking trash to each other and saying, you know what? I'm really the smarter Negro. you know what? People don't recognize my talent. When you play sports, there are a couple of guys on my team that I like that. Like, you guys are good, but I'm really good. I am a spectacular player. Well, the team loses if all of us don't work together. You could be the best player out there, but you need HRH to block. You need Gas 'Em Up to do what he does and be looking to get that pick six. If we don't play together, we done. And we're in the third quarter, so let's keep it real. All right, I got to bounce, man.
But in terms of the currency, like dollars and that, we need to start staying away from that, because we do have a lot of, like, I remember back in the days before the war, for example, in Sierra Leone, where a lot of the business people, when they sell, they buy diamonds and they take it out of the country. Because if you come to Belgium, for example, Antwerp, let me say you buy good, you buy good in Hong Kong, for example, because that's what a lot of people used to do from Sierra Leone. Go to Hong Kong, buy clothes, ship the container to West Africa, to Freetown. You sell all the clothes. Instead of buying US dollars or buying other currency, they buy diamond and gold. Stop in Antwerp, sell it, make profit, go back to Hong Kong, buy more containers, come back. So you don't need to use the dollars. You didn't need to use that. So there's a way around a lot of these things. It's all about basically knowing what you're doing. and what you want to do in Africa. And I
Can
believe that a lot of people.
can you
Yeah, go on.
explain that in a process that someone can readily use? Because you're saying an African businessman has to go to Antwerp or
Yes,
Brussels or wherever and get diamonds. Explain that.
Most of our family members in Sierra Leone years ago, what they would do, they would go to Hong Kong or Taiwan, because China, they never used to go to China back in the days. So basically, they'll buy the containers of clothes or whatever item they want to buy, and bring it back to Freetown. And when that is sold, instead of buying dollars with that money, you buy diamond. You buy X amount of carat of diamond, right? Because it was easy, like during Siaka Stephen in Sierra Leone, it was easy to get the license to export diamond. So basically, there's a way around these things back in the days. It's only recently, the African government are quite lacking in terms of, innovation and different ways to do business. Basically,
But what I'm saying is, I get that example. I want you to give me a walking model of how it's done today. So because I'm not denying it. So you're saying that one should buy diamonds and then you're going to sell them back to China?
No,
Where are you going to sell the diamonds?
A lot of people used to go to Antwerp, like in Belgium.
So now I got to take my money. So I got to get, let's say, I get the Sierra Leone currency. I'm not sure what it's called, but I get that, buy diamonds, get a plane ticket.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get a plane ticket, go to Belgium, sell the diamonds in Belgium.
Yeah.
As at that time, I would get some Belgian money or some euros
whatever currency you wish to get the money for. Yeah. If you want it in dollars, in pounds, yeah.
So now, in terms of security, how do I secure my diamonds? So, because again, if you're a businessman, and that's a great way to do it, but how are you securing yourself with robbery, risk of theft, as opposed to me just using a letter of credit, irrevocable letter of credit?
Well, traveling with diamonds is much more easier than traveling with suitcase of money, right?
No. What I'm saying is, again, so traveling with diamonds, it is easier, but also more riskier. You put yourself at risk of being targeted. I'm saying with business. No, wait, hold on, wait, brother, hold on, wait, brother, slow down, brother. So wait, slow down.
Hold on. Yeah.
Right now, in terms of doing international business, most businesses are doing, T&T, or you do some sort of irrevocable letter of credit, right? And so that actually is much easier and safer than doing with diamonds, as opposed, because now I can go to my bank.
What I'm trying to say, there's no infrastructure to fill that gap. Yeah, but basically that's what they used to do, because years ago,
that's what they used to do. So I'm asking, what are they doing now? That's what I'm trying to say.
No, but that's what I'm trying to say with the government filling the gap. That gap. That's what's not there, like in terms of the infrastructure and that innovation.
How do you get, if you're purchasing goods from China or from India or wherever, they want typically to be paid in dollars, pounds, and euro. Typically, most businesses want the U.S. dollar. So if you're selling your goods, you buy them from China. I know Nigeria has an agreement where I can actually purchase with the RMB through my Naira. So I can use my Stanbic Bank, convert it to RMB, and make the purchase. So I'm saying, though, because that Philip's point was about the the Shake Shack, the African American business, bringing waffles in some sort of variation, jollof chicken and waffles over to Africa, Nigeria, for example. Unless they want to stay in Africa, they may still want to get their money in dollars. Like Burger King is in Nigeria, they have currency swaps. They have all kind of derivatives that allow them to ensure that if the value of the Naira that they're getting starts to fluctuate, they can still get a predetermined value for the dollar. Maybe they buy those currencies ahead of time. So I'm saying,
and also there's companies called De Beers and Diamond D Cup. I used to remember they called D Cup. They moved their branch to Guinea now, but they used to buy the diamond and deposit the diamond there, and you can collect your money whatever country you want to collect the money from in the world, on the other side of the world. So it's like a guarantee. Once you deposit the diamond there, You could go to America and say
Okay,
that's what I want
please
to
send
spend
me
the
an
money.
email, brother. Send me an email,
I,
gasthemup@gmail.com. I
no,
would
no,
love to hear more about that.
I haven't dealt with
So
them for
call your
years.
uncles, speak with your uncles, ask them how they're doing it today, not how they did it in '83. Ask them how they're doing these things today because it's great information to be had. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying, on the ground today, these are some of the frustrations that businessmen are
Yes, this is
facing in terms of doing business in Africa.
if you listen carefully to what I was saying, this is where the government needs to step in and facilitate and modernize these kind of things, like trying to bring new innovation for business people to actually continue doing this kind of business. Because years ago, it used to be really, really easy, because, for example, like Belgium, Antwerp, you didn't need all this. All you needed is your license, when you land in Antwerp, to say, well, you have license to export diamond, for example, and X amount, and you got your normal customer, like, for example, the Jew, the Armenian, these are the guys that normally buy, the gem in Antwerp. And then, you got your people that you normally sell to. So you don't have that issue in terms of, trust, you know what I mean? Because it's not like going to some secret office where you're going to get robbed, you know what I mean? So it was all genuine business. But over the years, after the war, things have changed. Does that make sense? And obviously,
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But since we
yeah.
know, but you see what I'm saying, brother? We know that the governments are not, they're putting all type of roadblocks. So, what are
Yes.
the creative ways that we can get around that? And that's what I'm saying in terms of trying to bring a business into Africa. Unless you want to stay here, it's hard to pull your currency out unless you're one of the big boys or big girls.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But years ago, it used to be easier. Things used to be much more easier because the government make things easier for business people. But to be honest with you, it might be still possible, for the Lebanese and the Indians and those people that come to Africa,
Hey,
to do
let's
business.
we got two more people on. They're going to close out. Let's pass it to Judah, then we'll pass it to California. Judah, go ahead.
Thanks, Dynast. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I just came up here to, from Africa as well, but there's some things that I want to think people can really understand something. When like people talk of integration, like they expect African Americans to go to Africa and immediately integrate with the Africans over there. I think that's a hard thing to tell people, right? Because even when I came to United States, I still know generations of Africans that still haven't been able to integrate with African Americans, right? We create all these blocks around other states where we live at, and it's really hard to see an African really mingling with African American, or say they actually have an African American friends. It really don't happen as well, because even when you have kids, it's really hard. So expecting African Americans to go over there and really just trying to mingle, giving them a talk of war, like they have to do this, they have to do that, I think is really a bad issue to say. The same time, I believe that Africans sold African Americans, or most of the diaspora, right? I believe that if some were captured forcefully, some were obviously sold. And to be demanding United States to pay you reparations, you should be demanding Africa to pay you reparations as well. Those are the people that you have to sue. If you think that your DNA is from a certain country, you have to team up with people from the same DNA that you have. If you have the capability, sue these African countries because they sold you. It wasn't your wish to be sold, but they sold you. So, and reparations should come in a form of land, because you going to Africa, you still have to pay for land, you still have to pay for citizenship, you still have to pay for all of that. It just doesn't make sense from a place where you think you belong, but they're giving you all these extra charges, right? So I think reparations, for any person asking for reparations, I think Africa should be the one paying reparations to the diaspora. And we Africans sometimes.
How is that going to work out? Can you give a working model, like a working model of how that's going to play out?
You know what? I've got to go anyway. Good night
Right,
to
right.
everyone. Right?
It's
about time I get out.
let me
Bless you,
finish,
my brother
man.
Dynasty. Love to
Let
everyone
me
on this
finish.
panel, right?
How is that gonna work out if
You know what I'm saying? Give me an example of how it works. Show me an
okay,
example of how you make it work.
okay, if your DNA test say you're Yoruba, right? You from the diaspora, you took a DNA test and it says Yoruba. And Yoruba, me and you know Yoruba is it tells you your location. So maybe it says Nigeria. You also have other diaspora or African Americans who also have that same DNA test. They can team up and sue Nigeria because those people are in Nigeria if it's a certain tribe, but that tribe
But
is
then
part of Nigeria.
what about if Nigeria? Here's the two questions. What about one? The first thing, the Yoruba, because there is no Yoruba group, and there's different. You know, you have people from Oshun or Shobo. There's not one unified pan Yoruba anything.
Now you try
But wait,
to break it down because
no, wait. I'm showing you what they're going to respond to. They're going to say, one, that Nigeria didn't exist during that time. Two,
right,
they're
but
going to tell you
Nigeria,
who,
but Ghana is the one collecting money from these people. It's not the tribes that
no,
is collecting money, right?
but wait,
It's the
what I'm
country that
saying
is
is,
collecting money from these
brother,
people.
brother, your question, I'm trying to, because you said something, I want real clarification. You said they should sue Nigeria if you have Yoruba lineage, which I'm not arguing for or against. What I'm now saying is that the Nigerian government will say, thank you for this lawsuit. However, Nigeria did not exist at the time of the said, incident. And
Now
the Yoruba people will tell you, wait, hold on. The other people in Yoruba land will say, we didn't do that. It was those people. So how do you pinpoint which specific area in Yoruba land was doing it? Or do you take a broad brush and paint every Yoruba person as being a culprit in the slave trade? And
now
how do
you
you
try,
address Nigeria saying we weren't around during the time of the slave trade?
I just quoted Nigeria, but it's not only Nigeria. You have Ghana, Senegal as well. But what you went through specificity, right? So it's like breaking down tribes. And the DNA test, it tells you if you're Yoruba, it shows on the DNA test. And these tribes that you mentioned, they pay taxes to the Nigerian government or Ghanaian government if you're from Akan or Senegal. So, but those are the people that you have to sue because you sue in America.
But no one pays taxes based on your tribe in Nigeria. The federal, okay, in Nigeria you have the FIRS and the JTB. Those are the two tax bodies in Nigeria. I just registered a company. Hold on, listen. They don't ask me what's my ethnicity when I register with the FIRS.
Brother.
So it's going to be difficult. How do you? I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just trying to ask you. When you say something, give me a model of how it can work. Don't just say it and not have a way it can work.
I just told you the model. If your DNA test
No, you said that the taxes of these people, but I'm telling you, in Nigeria specifically, the Nigerian government is not collecting taxes from Yoruba kingdoms. That's not happening.
From Yorubas, but they collect taxes from the people that live in Nigeria, or every citizen collect taxes from his people.
The Nigerian government is going to tell you Nigeria didn't exist during the time of the slave trade. So what are you going to say then?
People are found in your country. That's what I'm saying, and they pay taxes.
But then those same people are going to say, which of us sold you into slavery? You have to prove which one of them.
What you mean? So if you want to sue America for reparations, who is that person that's responsible?
Because America was in existence during the time of the slave trade. So was England, so was Netherlands, and so were these other countries. You would have to sue those old African kingdoms which no longer exist.
Now you're making no sense.
I'm not saying you're wrong. Sue them, but wait, how are you going to sue these kingdoms that don't exist anymore?
And that's what I'm telling you, because those kingdoms, we actually know where they at and what part of Africa they belong and who they are loyal to. These kingdoms are still loyal to presidential to the presidents of this country.
Can I ask Dynast a question? May I ask Dynast a question?
Yeah, go ahead. But I was still talking, so go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is California. Dynast, I know what you're saying is very relevant. How can I contact you? I want to show you something on Facebook. How can I get in contact with you? I'm not on Instagram, but like, are you on Facebook, or can I submit my stuff through Facebook and you can interview me one day?
What do you want to show me?
The organizations I created. I can send you the videos through Facebook.
What organization did you create?
Well, it's set up these black republics in the United States.
Black republics in the United States?
Yeah, it's gonna be 4 states in the Midwest and 4 states in the Middle Atlantic United States.
So kind of like the Republic of New Africa.
No, because because we totally against moving to the South. That's why I'm saying. That's why I want to send you the videos where I can show you why and the Facebook information. That's why
Okay.
I just want to.
Let me ask you this. How would you go about doing it?
If I can submit the information on Facebook, I get into that.
You got California. You got the platform right now, brother. Give me. You got 5 minutes. Just explain how would you go about doing it. They're going to close out. So go ahead. Floor is yours.
Okay. Well, first of all, I live in Los Angeles, and but what's going on? I can't talk too loud. But what's going on in LA and everything? The Midwest has a lot of black people in it, and so does. I've got an echo. So does the Middle Atlantic, and those would be perfect places where we could set up the homelands and everything. I'm working right now with people, no matter what their religion is, no matter what they believe. We really working together. We ain't gonna be in the Middle Atlantic. We ain't gonna be in the Midwest. I already know some people that want to sign up. The only thing you have to do, and it's enough black people just live in those states, and you are already a member. Also, that's why I just want to know, Dennis, can I just send the stuff on Facebook and you can close up? I just want to know, can I submit the stuff for you to Facebook?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Search for Uhuru. Search for Uhuru.
Okay, I'm gonna send it today then, bro. Just look for it in your messages.
Okay, for sure. Hey, everyone, thank you so much for joining. Like, share, subscribe. But till next time, family, Dynasty Mirror, search for Uhuru. Peace.